Okay, it is that time, so I'm going to go ahead and call the State Building Code Council meeting to order. We'll start with welcome and introductions, and we'll start with roll call.
Okay, so we have Tony Dunn,
Present.
Shell Anderson,
Present.
Jay Arnold,
Here.
Todd Bayreuther, Micah Chappelle,
I'm here.
Damon Doyle, Al French. Damon's here, I just had.
Here. Here.
Bob Hamlin,
Here.
Roger Haringa,
Here.
Matthew Hepner, Craig Holt,
Present.
Pete Reiki,
Here.
Katie Sheehan, Carolyn Trout,
Here.
and Corey Wilker.
Here.
And ex officio, we have Larry Hobb,
Here,
Senator John Lubbock,
happy to be here.
Representative Alex Ramel,
Morning, everybody.
Senator Linda Wilson,
I'm here.
Lauren Lathrop,
I am here.
and our Assistant Attorney General Derek Meyerbachtal.
Thanks, Annette. I'm here.
I promoted a number.
Annette, Todd Byerther is here.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Thank you.
Katie's.
Annette, Damon Doyle is here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a quorum. Stoyan would like to do an introduction, and then we will let the members of the public be recognized. Go ahead, Stoyan.
I think you all know, but we were looking to hire a new code specialist, Dustin Kerr. And he's attending the meeting remotely, so I will let him introduce himself. Dustin?
Hello, my name's Dustin, and I'm new to DES, but not new to code enforcement. I come to DES and the State Building Code Council from Island County as their building official. There I, hold lots of certificates through the ICC. I've got the IRC combination inspector and plans examiner designations. I've got all my plans examiner certificates. I've got all my fire certificates, and I'm still working to get some more. But working here with DES and State Building Code Council is a little bit of a tack change for me career-wise. But I've enjoyed it so far. I'm looking forward to assisting everybody here to make the process as smooth as possible and move forward with the process.
Excellent. Welcome, Dustin.
Thank
Happy
you.
to have you. Okay, are there any members from the public that would like to be recognized? We have some hands raised. We'll get to you in just a second here.
Hello, this is Ray Shipman, building official for the city of DuPont.
Welcome, Ray.
Hi, this is Chris Edmark with Thurston County.
Welcome.
Hi, this is Kim Barker with King County Permitting.
Welcome.
Hi, this is Andrea Smith with the Building Industry Association of Washington.
Welcome, Andrea.
Hi, this is Al Spalding, Department of Health Construction Review Services.
Welcome, Al.
Tim Atterbury, Associated General Contractors of Washington.
Welcome, Tim.
Good morning.
Dave Cocotte with the Washington State Association. Sorry.
Welcome, Dave.
This is Angela Haupt, City of Kirkland Plan Review Supervisor.
Welcome.
David Swayze, City of Bothell Building Official.
Welcome, David.
Ray Cockrum, City of Puyallup Building Official.
Welcome, Ray.
This is Brian Smith, building official for the city of Camas.
Welcome, Brian.
Gary Beals representing Sound Transit.
Welcome, Larry.
This is Ryan Muma with the City of Bellevue Inspection Services Manager.
Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
This is Tara Jenkins, Washington Association of Building Officials.
Welcome, Tara.
Ken Brulette, Seattle Fire Department.
Welcome, Ken. Okay, are there any other members of the public that would like to be recognized before we move on to agenda item number 2?
Did my name get said? Larry Andrews, Andrews Mechanical.
Welcome, Larry.
Ty Jennings, Cascade Natural Gas.
Welcome, Ty. Okay, thank you and welcome everyone. Go ahead. Sorry, did I cut someone off? Okay, I think. Go ahead, Micah.
That went too quick. I was going to do something on item 2, so go ahead to move to item 2.
Okay, all right, will do. Okay, so we'll go to item number 2, which is review and approve the agenda. The agenda is up on the share screen right now. Go ahead and take a quick second to look over that. And with that, I will give the floor to Micah.
I just had a question on item 3 and the timeline. How long is that going to take?
It's my understanding that that's about an hour.
Okay, is there, then with that information, I would like to move items 4 and 5 to before item 3 as a motion.
Okay.
Can I add a little bit to it? The council can decide to do whatever the wishes with the agenda, but we have Kate and Jennifer and Tara on a tight schedule too, so they made themselves available at 10:15. Items 4 and specific item 5 will take a long time, so I don't want to keep them waiting.
Okay, I can understand that. However, I would assume that there's a significant number of the call-in people online to discuss item 5. So I'm not sure if that's appropriate to have those significant number of folks wait over an hour to discuss that topic.
The training was scheduled 1 month ago, so I can't make them reschedule.
Well, sure, but then you should have provided us with a timeline on the agenda and the folks with a timeline on the agenda from the public. How are they supposed to be aware that ethics training would take more than an hour?
Is Kate and Jennifer on and available to speak right now?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Kate Reynolds and Jennifer is also in the room.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. Quickly, just for council members and those that will be involved in the motion that's on the table, is your timeline available to be moved around on today's agenda?
How long, when do you think you would need us to come back? I can't speak for Jennifer, but just on my behalf.
Item number 5, I could see taking some time. So I could imagine that that's probably going to be, that could take up to an hour. Item 5 can. So it would postpone you by about an hour, hour and a half, I would say.
Okay. Jennifer, are you available?
Let's see, that's like 11:30. Yeah, I should be.
If someone could just email us, I should be as well.
If it would be easier to reschedule.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
We can easily do that.
Go ahead, Senator Wilson.
Yeah, I don't think we should be rescheduling this. This has been on the agenda for quite some time and it's been a request from some members. So I think that we need to continue. I don't think we need to not have it today.
Okay, Just to keep this motion moving forward and to open it up to discussion, at this time, we would need a second, and then we can open it up for discussion further.
I second it.
Was that Pete?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
second to delay just to make sure.
Okay, excellent. We have a motion and a second. With that, we'll open it up for discussion. Micah, go ahead.
I don't want to reschedule the ethics training either. I'm not sure it would take an hour to discuss item 5 unless there's just a significant amount of, public testimony or even council testimony. So I don't want to reschedule ethics training because I agree with Senator Wilson. This needs to be happening. But I guess in the future, if this motion doesn't go forward, if we're scheduling trainings, maybe there should be a time placed on the agenda so members of the public will know what time to log into the meeting. That's my discussion point. Thanks.
Is there any other further discussion? Chael, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we should have the ethics training now, and it has been on the agenda, and I guess I assumed it would take a while at least, not maybe half an hour, so I guess if I'm in favor of keeping it and having it as it is an important thing that's been questioned for a while. So that's how I see this issue.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, I think our duty to the public and listening to the public and hearing their views is more important than delaying our ethics training by an hour or so. And unless the ethics training is required for items 4 and 5, I think out of due respect for the public, we should delay that.
Thank you, Pete. Any other discussion, Chael?
This is Kate Reynolds. Can I just say that Jennifer and I are available later on. So we could come back in an hour or so. I don't think I could go much past that, but we could come back in an hour or so to do it today. And also, just as a general note, we can reschedule. Jennifer and I are very good at working our schedules together with those of boards and commissions or other places that we need to train to. So we could also work to that as well.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Chael.
Micah, would you be amenable to scheduling the training for 1 hour from now, and ideally ending the having discussion item 5 immediately, and then having a hard stop on that, meaning we would either resolve it by then or we would have it go beyond that, at which time we may have taken all the public input and simply be discussing it as a council. Would you be amenable to that?
Yeah, I don't want to reschedule the ethics training. I just wanted to push it farther back in the meeting, but was all. I don't want to reschedule it. I agree that it's necessary and needed, but a delay if the two presenters, Kate and Jennifer, are available in an hour from now, that'd be fabulous, but I don't want to reschedule it. So if they're not available, then we won't move the item and folks will just have to log back into the meeting later.
Okay, I guess I'll propose an amendment to your motion, which would be to have a hard stop at 11:15 on discussion of item 5. Or at least a delay, or at least start the training, start item 3 at that point, regardless of where we are with items 5 and 4. Is that?
Absolutely, that sounds great.
Okay.
Micah and Chael, just as a point of clarification, right now it is 10:14. If we said 11:15, do you think that's fair for the training?
I do.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so the motion's been amended. We need a second on that, which I'm assuming that's coming from Micah. Or does the amendment have to come from, the motion have to come from Micah and then Pete re-second?
I approve the amended motion, and if Pete wants to second, that'd be great.
Excellent.
I'll second that. So
thank you. Okay, we have a motion, an amended motion with a second. Is there any other further discussion before we vote on that? Okay, excellent. With that, we'll do a roll call.
Okay, Shell Anderson,
Aye.
Jay Arnold,
Yes.
Todd Byerther,
Aye.
Micah,
Yes.
Damon Doyle,
Aye.
Al French,
Aye.
Bob Hamlin,
Aye.
Roger Haringa,
Aye.
Craig Holt,
Aye.
Pete Reiki,
Aye.
Katie Sheehan. Aye. Carolyn Trout,
Aye.
Corey Wilker.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. With that, that's going to move ethics training down to agenda, past agenda item 5. So with that, we will move to review and approve the minutes, which is now agenda item 3. Let's go ahead and take a look at the minutes. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at those already. Shell, go ahead.
Yeah, on page 4, for Al French's motion, third one from the bottom, it says to vote separately on CR 102, CR 103, CR 104, and CR 105. Are those the things that were, the motion was made on? I thought they were different proposals, code proposals.
That is correct, Chell.
Okay, so I'll suggest that we revise that.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Does anyone else have any modifications they'd like to make to the minutes or any issues they see with them?
Are we considering all 3 minutes together?
Yes, sir, we are.
I had one on,
I'm sorry, Katie, quickly, just real quick, so I can keep track of this. I apologize. So the Chael, the one that you had issues with was from, or that we need to make changes to was from 422. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Does anyone, let's do this, Katie, and I apologize for cutting you off there. Just to make this simple, we're going to vote on one set of minutes at a time. And so the first one would be the 422 minutes that are in front of us now that Chael has the modification to. Is there any other issues with the minutes from 422? Carolyn, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question on page 2. The timing where in item 3 executive session, it was called back to order, or the regular meeting was called back to order at 11:35 a.m. But then in item 4, it discusses how the meeting was ended from 10:41 to 11:10 a.m. And at 11:10, roll call was taken and a quorum was confirmed. So I'm just curious if in item 3, that was actually maybe 10:35, and then we had kind of the issue. Anyway, perhaps just double checking the timing on those ones.
Yeah.
Noted. Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, does anyone else have anything on the minutes for 422? Okay, excellent. So we would be looking for a motion to approve just the minutes for 422 as amended. Chael, go ahead.
Actually, I do have one other thing.
Okay.
Right now it says the meeting was ended from 10:41 to 11:10, and I don't think the meeting was actually ended. It was paused at that time. But between Carolyn's suggestions and my suggestions, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as with suggested modifications.
Thank you, Chael. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Was that Micah?
Yes, Micah, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
I've actually got my hand up.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't see that.
Okay, it's a very small hand. Looking at,
Quickly, who's talking right now? Is Damon in as a participant and not a panelist?
somebody confirm that?
We're working on that right now because we need you in as a panelist because I won't see your hand otherwise.
He's a panelist.
He is. Okay. All right. I apologize. Go ahead, Damon. Go ahead.
Just a quick thing in item number 4. The last paragraph notes RCW 3626-150. I think that's incorrect. I looked that up really quick and it doesn't have anything to do with the Building Code Council.
What item again?
This would be item number 4 on this agenda, last paragraph. It says Senator Linda Wilson inquired about Ecotope's cost benefit analysis. And then notes RCW 3626-150.
Okay, we will take a look at that as well.
I'll amend the motion to also include a correction to that.
Thank you, Joe. And Micah, do you agree with that second?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Will you go? We have public comment on this. So, Tim, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand, Al. After Tim, I'm going to get to you, Al. No, Tim. Okay, Al, go ahead.
So question for Michelle on, are you saying that the comment from the senator on item 4 should be stricken from the minutes, or what exactly is it that you're requesting?
Oh, it was based on Damon Doyle's comment that the RCW section specifically noted was in the minutes was not the correct section. And so the revised motion would have the staff update that number, the RCW number, to be the number that the senator actually referred to, which does affect the Building Code Council.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any against? Motion carries. We'll move to review and approve minutes for 6/17, June 17th. Does anyone have any modifications or clarifying points for the 6/17 minutes? Katie, go ahead.
Thanks. It's small, but on page 7, down at the bottom of the public comment, Joelle Robinson mentioned many people's names and of people not able to stay, and they were people who were going to be testifying in favor.
Or Katie, are not all of the names on there? Is that what you're?
They're not on there. It just says many people's names.
Understood. Okay. Council staff will take a look at that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other changes to the minutes for 6/17? Chell, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 17th with the correction suggested by Katie.
Excellent. Looking for a second.
Mike, second.
Excellent. We have a second from Katie. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye for the 6/17 minutes.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any against? Motion carries. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes for 6/29, June 29th. Is there any modifications to the minutes for June 29th? Okay, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve these minutes.
Thank you, Craig. Do we have a second?
Second, Damon Doyle.
Second from Damon. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries. That concludes agenda item 3. We will now move to agenda item number 4, which is the 2021 Washington Code implementation date vote by council. Stoyan, do you have anything on this that you want to start off with?
The implementation date, in my opinion, the council already voted on it because we have the implementation date in already adopted fire code, international fire code. I believe we have the implementation date.
It's included in the Sierra
Yes, so all codes in the CR 103 or in the CR 102. So the CR 102 is not adopted yet, but all CR 103 is for the energy code, fire code, and building code. The implementation date is there.
Okay. Micah, go ahead.
Great. Hopefully those can be provided as documentation for reference in this meeting since it's on the agenda. The reason I asked to be on this agenda or had this on the agenda for a vote, we voted for the CR 103, but I don't believe the implementation date was actually discussed. It's a default date and it really doesn't even align with the RCW requirements. It's just been a historical date of July 1st. RCW 27074 item, how far down am I? 5C says all decisions to adopt or amend codes of the statewide application shall be made prior to December 1st of any year and shall not take effect before the end of the regular legislative section in the next year. We all understand that language. However, there's never been an actual vote implementation date set. Again, default. So in the past, my understanding is that staff has possibly provided some type of insert pages to go into the base code language or some other type of documentation for the majority of the codes. However, for the energy code, that organization or that group gets an entire code put together by Sbcc staff, a Washington energy code, where the other codes do not. Last cycle, the Washington Association of Building Officials assisted the previous director in trying to put together a Washington custom code and was helped developed by ICC. So we don't want to go backwards in what we're doing. My understanding from Stoyan, and Stoyan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we have this in an email and per meetings he's attended, that he will not be producing insert pages. He will be producing a document that has the code changes, and that is all. The code officials believe this is a disservice to the users around the state, meaning that they have to go purchase an ICC code book and then download this document that has the changes, compare that code language to the code language in the ICC codes, and kind of analyze what applies and what does not. So the decision came up, or the request came up, that we could work with ICC in putting together the code changes into an actual Washington code book that could be printed, or even earlier, a digital version that can be used. So folks don't have to go search for all the changes somewhere else. And so that was where this motion or this topic on the agenda came up. And we want to look at a possible delay in implementation, not a delay in adoption, but actually setting a later date than July 1st in order to complete that work. The Washington Association of Building Officials organization has had several members offer their time, volunteer time, to assist Stoyan, knowing that he and Sbcc are very low on staff and cannot get that level of work completed. We have met with Stoyan and Mark Johnson of ICC, whose team handles this type of work. And there was indication that yes, it would take a little bit longer than the July 1st date. However, hopefully not very much longer after that. So what we would like to do is have a motion to extend the implementation date to November 1st, 2023, which is a 4-month delay in implementation. And that's based on the timing information from Stoyan and when we can fully adopt the code, get the information reviewed and off to ICC, as well as get stuff put together for the rest of the state, instead of just having the energy code be a complete code produced by Sbcc. We would like all those codes produced by Sbcc as an entire document, book, however you want to look at it. And so that's what we'd like to discuss. I don't know if a motion is appropriate now. We haven't had public comment, so that's where we would be at this time. But again, the RCW and the WAC language only indicates its effect after the end of the legislative session. July 1st is somewhat that default date. And I see that they are showing on the CR 103 an implementation date. However, I'm not sure that was ever discussed as an actual voting topic, when I believe the indication was the CR 103 was the code changes we were voting on, not the implementation date. So that's where I'm at. Thank you for listening.
Okay, what we will do for this topic, thank you, Micah. What we'll do for this this agenda item is we're going to open it up to discussion among council members first. Then we will go to public comment, and we can make the motion as we see appropriate, Micah, from there. Does that sound okay? As far as
honestly, I think I'd almost rather hear from the public first, so that could have some impact on the council members' discussion or thought process would be my preference, but that's not up to me.
okay. What I'll do is I would like to say a couple of things as far as the July 1st, 2023. The July 1st, 2023 date that is on the CR 103. Although maybe not specifically discussed or voted on as a date, was my understanding that that is the date that we set all of our timelines for. TAG meetings, going through the committees, and then council. And so that is what me personally as a council member and as a TAG member was under the impression of, that that's what's kind of set our timelines. And so you know, the voting on it specifically, I did not have an inclination that that was something that was required or that is required right now after the CR 103 is filed and after we set all of our timelines to the July 1, 2023 implementation. And so that's one point that I do want council to keep in mind, but I don't know that they share that viewpoint either. And I would like to get council's take on this from a standpoint of maybe what their thoughts were as we went through this process, if they thought this date was up in the air. So with that, I'll open it up to council first, and then we will go to public comment. Chell, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, I mean, certainly having a code book that's integrated is the best thing. But whether we want to do that or not, or willing to change things to make that happen is the question. From a, I guess to answer your question, Tony, all the code sessions that I teach or talk about, it's always July 1st, 2023 for the code, and that dates back, years. That's kind of an understood thing, and I think it was actually mentioned probably a few times during the discussions the council had that July 2023 would be the implementation date. But I have to go back and listen to all the recordings to see if, I guess that to see. Regarding the kind of the general question for Micah is, so what I heard you say, Micah, was that you heard that the council staff was going to take a step backward in terms of the services that they provide to code officials, which obviously need to understand or have easy access to the code. So if council staff was going to take a step backwards, and now you're saying, you're suggesting with your proposed motion that instead of going back to what it was last cycle, that actually it takes a big step forward into producing a code book, or at least delaying the code such that a code book can be produced. I guess, could we also consider as an option just doing what we did last time and then putting the infrastructure in place now, such that for the next cycle, we can get the code books issued on time? I'm guessing, it's hard to plan infrastructure when you're most of the way done with something. It's easier to plan it when you're at the beginning, and so I bet we could plan it now for next time. So I guess that's my inclination. I'd like to hear from Micah and staff both on the answer to, what if we just did what we did last time? Because obviously taking a step backwards in terms of service code official seems like a disservice. Yeah. But also taking a leap forward when we are nearly finished with the process seems like maybe not the right time to do.
Thank you, Joe. Micah, go ahead and respond to that.
So just some specifics there. You mentioned about, I didn't say just code officials, I said our users, and that is all users across the state, not just code officials and designers. And what it would be different is I'm not asking you to take a big step forward. We were not aware until April or May when Stoyan came to a meeting and said, I'm not producing insert pages, or the Sbcc is not producing insert pages, and the Sbcc is not going to work to put together a Washington custom code, which they did last cycle. So not producing documents that they produced last cycle means we are taking a step backwards. And we're going to again, it wasn't known until May. So there wasn't time to plan a separate infrastructure. If Stoyan had to come in a year and a half ago and said, I'm not going to, or the Sbcc is not going to provide insert pages or custom codes, we could have started this process sooner. However, he did not indicate that information until a meeting, an annual business meeting in Leavenworth. I want to say it was end of April, May. Tara can correct me if I'm wrong. And then once that got out, word got out to membership and some other users, that was brought up again at a WABO meeting this summer. And so this is why we're at where we're at now. So again, it's not something new, or sorry, it is something new, and it's not a big step forward. We didn't know we're taking a step backwards until May of this year. So
I guess
hopefully that answers your questions.
Yeah, as a user of codes, as an architect, I look up in the code book and I have to follow all the codes, and that's something I do. I understand what you're saying, but my specific question was, if council staff said they would do what they did last time, which is produce those insert pages, would that be an adequate remedy to what you're talking about? Versus, my understanding is we have not, as a state, produced integrated code books. So that's why I called that a kind of a step forward. But and I'd like to hear from staff on this as well, but Micah, if staff simply did what they did last time, would that be an adequate remedy?
I honestly, my understanding, Chell, is that is actually more work than producing an actual code through ICC. In other words, you have to go and identify the exact location of where that code language goes and provide it in a space on the sheet to insert into the code book. So my understanding was that is actually more work than producing the actual code book.
Okay, can we hear from staff on that?
Yes, Jill. Stoyan, go ahead.
So the insert pages, if Micah, your members are enforcing the code from the insert pages, that's a bad choice. The insert pages is something that the council was providing for many years, but because of the format the council is adopting the codes, so the council staff was never able to keep up with the changes. For example, I started about 2 years ago and I went through like 18 rules, and for 10 years in California, I have 13. Okay, so nothing bad about that. I'm just saying that the insert pages, they weren't correct. I wanted to produce a better document, not worse. I wanted to produce a better document that has the state amendments and the reason for these amendments, because from your members, Micah, and other code users, this is the most common question. What is the reason for this change? If the council wants me to go back to the insert pages, I will produce the insert pages without any change of the effective date. 2018 codes. The council shouldn't be involved here. This wasn't the contract that the state building code councils had. I started with Richard. I worked with him for 2 months. In the next 4 months, I was looking for a contract between Sbcc and ICC, the publisher of the code. We don't have any contract. And I was clear, and I've been talking about this since February last year, that we cannot have a contract with ICC for 2021 code adoption cycle for many reasons, including some legal issues that I had questions about. And I started talking to ICC and outlining some path to producing Washington codes for 2024. So I have my plan. I'm on page 24, right? We need to make some changes. I want to develop codes, but for 2021, it's too late. Energy code. We have the energy code in a PDF format because it's a different code. With the energy code, we have Washington energy code. We're adding sections from the ICC code to it. Okay, versus a lot of codes, we take the model code and we're adding the Washington amendments. Okay, so that's a big difference. This is why we have the energy code. But again, for 2018, it wasn't a contract that the State Building Code Council had. And currently, I wasn't part of this conversation between WAWO and ICC. I had a meeting last Wednesday and outlined my positions there. So that's what I can share.
I guess still feeling like I have the floor. Stoyan, what is stopping staff from producing what was produced last cycle that was maybe not preferable, but at least adequate for code users?
The insert pages take too much time to produce, and then it's always difficult to maintain them because we have too many off-cycle rulemakings. We have too many expedite rulemakings to fix mistakes. We have too many emergency rulemakings. All this, when connected, it gives the council staff a hard time to keep up with the modifications to the insert pages. The other thing is we decided to do it with errata. So don't do it every day. We just do errata every month, right? Well, we learned that there are jurisdictions, they print out the first set of insert pages, they never check, so they are enforcing the old, wrong sections. So it was always an issue with insert pages in my, again, almost 2 years with the council. If WAWO members and the code users like the insert pages, we can produce insert pages, no problem.
Sorry, I keep shaking my head.
Micah,
yeah.
Micah, Chell has the floor right now, and I will get to you. Okay, please. Chell, do you have anything further?
My last question is from Micah. I'd like to hear kind of the overall process, and you don't have to go into it now if you don't want, but the overall process of why the delay is necessary and who's doing what at what time leading up to that November deadline that you suggested earlier, and then staff touch points within that, times that would take staff time to do things. And maybe that's a presentation for later. I don't want to hog the time, but I think that's a question that I would like to hear an answer to.
Go ahead, Micah.
I'll wait. There's a lot of other people wanting to talk. I think that's something we can discuss at chill as we get further into this, but I know other folks have points to make, so I'll stop talking for a few minutes.
Carolyn, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I guess to answer your original question, my opinion is this would be a vote to change the implementation date, not to set it. I think we have other documents that already kind of establish what that date is. I do agree with Micah. I think it's highly valuable. I think everybody agrees to have integrated code books for practitioners and building officials for everybody. Super valuable. I guess I do have concerns around moving the implementation date relative to work needing to be completed by a volunteer group. I think really understanding that work plan and those commitments would be really important. And I guess I'm curious to hear more about a compromise that retains the current implementation date, but perhaps it allows the insert pages to be available by July 1st, or to have a digital code book to be available by July 1st, or to have insert pages by July 1st and a digital code book as soon as possible after July 1st. Those are some of my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Jay, go ahead.
I appreciate the ideas, Carolyn. My questions were, if we didn't take action, given everything we've heard, would WABO and ICC want to do this work anyway, and how would things work in the interim? It sounds like Carolyn's presented some ideas on how that might work in the interim. I'm wondering if staff had any comment on what would happen during that interim period that would allow, what could happen during that interim period that would allow the effective date to remain in place.
Go ahead, Stoyan.
So we can make a compromise. Okay, so if staff is not developing insert pages, staff can help with developing the initial package that Micah needs for ICC, because what we do in Washington State, and it was part of my intent to make some changes to the WAC that will allow the council staff to publish code. Now we are amending WAC, right? And ICC needs a different package. ICC needs to show them the mistakes with in a different format. So staff can help with that. If we don't produce the insert pages, again, as I said, we don't need to change the implementation date. But at the same time, we're talking about contract between WABO and ICC. So I don't know if we help WABO develop this code. And I think the best choice is online version, electronic version, because to the best of my understanding, and I know these folks from ICC, I've worked with them when I was in California, it needs much more time to publish a hard copy, to publish a book versus electronic version. So if it's an electronic version, staff can help again if we don't produce insert pages, but I want to know how legally we can do that if there is a contract between the publisher and a third party. So if we help, we are investing staff time and taxpayers' money into a product, and I would like to have this product posted on our website.
I think you need to, hold on, Stoyan, because I think you're going beyond, and I think you need to ask WABO's executive director about a contract. We're not going into contract with ICC to make money. So make those accusations, but you need to allow WABO's executive director to rebut that.
That's
you're not giving taxpayer dollars to WABO.
I'm asking a question.
But you're implicating that we're going to be giving staff time and taxpayer dollars to WABO. And I don't think that's appropriate, because that's not fact. That's my argument. So I'll lower my hand and be quiet again. Sorry, but that's your indication, and that's not appropriate.
if it's not, I will apologize. I just want to know, what is the deal here? I want to know what I can do. Again, we can, if we don't do insert pages, we can help with producing the package you need, ICC needs, again, for electronic version of these codes. But I want to know if I'm not violating any ethic codes or anything, if I can do that.
Mr. Chairman, this is Damon Doyle. I've had my hand up for some time. Are you still not seeing it?
I apologize. I'm going to keep this up and I will pay attention to that. I am sorry, Damon. My apologies.
Okay. May I speak?
Yes, floor is yours.
Thank you. I support Micah's motion here. Is this an official motion? If not, I would make a second.
We don't have a motion on the floor right now. Nothing has been moved.
Okay. So in terms of discussion, being someone who's gone around the state and instructed builders on each code cycle change for the last decade and a half, it's paramount that we have either insert pages or a integrated code. I can't see launching this off on July 1 with building officials not knowing where to find the right answers, or builders or designers. So I'm very much in favor of what Mike has proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Are there any other, Micah, the floor is yours if you want it at this time. I have no other hands up from council members. And so if you would like to answer some of the questions and concerns that have come through council comment, then please feel free.
Okay. I do have a few little points. Wobble really does, we don't want to do this full time. We wanted to help Stoyan produce something that is accurate and usable. Previously, the insert pages are not accurate. We don't want insert pages, honestly. I agree with him that enforcing them from insert pages is not a good choice. However, the WAC rules are inaccurate as well, and Stoyan should speak to that because he is working on a process to modify the WAC rules to actually show what the state does for code language in the WAC rules. I differ in opinion on the energy code. I think it's the same. According to state law, we start with the base ICC codes and then we modify those and provide the amendments. Yet the energy code has a fully produced code by the Sbcc staff. As far as the WABO work plan goes, we did meet with ICC with Stoyan on Wednesday, and they indicated that what we showed them, so in other words, I showed them the code change proposals, an actual code change proposal that we submit, that anyone has submitted, that shows the strike through and underline. Everyone on the Sbcc has seen those because those are the ones we start with at the tag. I put that on the screen for ICC staff, and their code revisor said that's exactly what we need. It shows a strike through and underline. So we don't need to show a bunch of WAC information that Stoyan's concerned about. We just need to show the strike through and underline, which is already done, at least for the 2021 new code changes in the code proposals that were provided by various members of the public originally. So that would be very simple in getting off to ICC to get started. And I think that timeline would include enough time for them to provide printed versions of all the codes. So to Carolyn's point about timing, I think Shell brought that up as well on a digital code. They actually believe they could get a digital code out fairly quickly for everyone to start looking at to find those areas that have errors still or inaccurate, as Stoyan mentioned, and they could fix that before they go to print. So I do believe that they could have some type of digital code by maybe, I think they said September, October, a few months before the printed version, because it takes them a couple months to get those printed versions out. So I'm again just looking for a short delay. At least the code users should be looking for a code delay, implementation delay, in order to produce something that everyone can use and have access to. Thanks. We should open up to the public.
Thank you, Micah. Appreciate it. Stoyan, go ahead.
I want to touch on the technicalities a little bit. So don't take this for or against anything. I'm really for developing a code, but good code, right? So the technicality, when we get the proposals, we put a lot of work over these proposals. So what you see in the proposals as their file is not the same, what you see in the CR 102s. So that's the first thing. Again, in Washington, we're showing changes to the WAC, okay? And for ICC, we are showing changes to the model code. So that needs some time to put this together. Mike, I'm not arguing, I'm trying to explain. And then
I know you're not arguing, but you're explaining incorrectly. The code revision form that we produced to you is the 2021 language with modifications. So I'm sorry, you're providing inaccurate information, and I will argue that point. I can share the screen of the code proposals, and it's based off the 2021 base language with modifications. So I disagree, and I'm sorry I'm getting more passionate about it, but you're giving false information, Stoyan.
Micah, I know what they have on file, okay? So I don't want to argue. What I'm saying is I can give you the code proposals and I can wish you a good luck to develop a code, okay? What you see in the CR 102, there are hours invested in that. It's not the same document compared to what you see in these code proposals. So let's be clear on that. That these are technicalities that everybody needs to know. When the council adopts something, then this is when the staff starts working, okay? So the code proposals, 90% of them are modified because some of these code proposals show changes from 2018. Others are showing changes from 2021. There are proposals that are showing changes from the WAC. So they're all over the place. Staff puts the hours there to make them look like they look in the CR 102. So, yes, Krista.
And also, Micah, you have proposals that you've accepted, 2 proposals that both amend the same section, and oftentimes staff has to meld those proposals together and you come up with a 3rd set of language that then goes into the 102. So there is modification that happens after the tag work and before the council vote. So just going with the proposals won't get you an accurate code. There is a lot of work that goes on aside from that.
So give us a second.
Give us 1 sec, excuse me.
We have some.
Can you click on the, where you were, hover over that, and then click on the box, click there? Okay, there you go, perfect. Okay. Micah, go ahead.
I'm just going to let the public speak.
Okay, Representative Hoff.
Yeah, I was just going to echo the same thing Micah did. It sounds like we have a difference of opinion, but let's hear from the public.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, we'll move to public comment. For those attendees who would like to speak on this, please do a raise of hands.
I unmuted. Can I talk now?
Ray, just give me 1 sec. I just need to see how many people are going to be speaking. That way I need to know whether I need to set a time limit on this.
Thank you.
Okay, due to our time limit of 11:15 when we have to go to the training,
Tony, if it's Derek Marabacto, I just
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I just got a communication from Kate Reynolds regarding a conflict with respect to her and Jennifer being able to present now at 11:15. I'm sending you an email about it. Sorry, this is turning into a little bit of a mess, but I'm confirming right now with her.
Okay, sounds like the training is going to be probably postponed. We'll wait to hear from Derek. Thank you, Derek, for that. With that, we'll go ahead and start with Ray Shipman. Please keep your comments pointed.
Yes, there was a couple things that were stated about not voting on the implementation date. When the tag process started, the very first thing we did is the tag voted on amendment changes. to the existing amendments. And that's when it was initially brought up and voted on from the tag, taken to the BFP, and then the council. I'm not totally against changing the implementation date, but I don't think through process we actually can, because permanent rule has already been filed through the CR 103. And being that that's been done, the only other avenue that the council would have is to either do it under an emergency rule or I guess a CR 105 under expedited rulemaking. But if there's any abstentions to that, then you would have to take it all the way through the full permanent rulemaking process. Now, if I'm mixing anything up, please let me know, but I don't even know that we have time to change a permanent rule at this point that's already been filed with the rule with the code revisor's office. Am I correct?
Yes, Ray, you're correct. Thank you.
Okay, so I think changing the implementation date for only group 2 is not very smart. We want to keep all the code change proposals, all the implementation dates the same. So just through process, I don't think that we can physically or legally change the implementation date that's already been voted on for the 102 and 103s. But that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Once you're complete with your comment, just to help me out as the chair, just be sure to lower your hand. Thank you. Dave Kokot, go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Dave, you can unmute now.
Okay, sorry, I thought it was already unmuted. My name is Dave Kokot. I'm with the Washington State Association of Fire Marshals. I was also former chair of the State Building Code Council. I've been through a number of these processes. I'm a little bit disappointed that we're at this point trying to move things forward. Our association opposes extending the deadline for the adoption of the codes. We have set schedules for doing our training, moving things forward with this. The insert pages have been probably the most valuable because we don't have to purchase those. So we have a number of members that get online, they're able to download those, print those, put those into 3-ring binders, which we find are actually better than the main code that was published. One of the things we also have concern about is there was a statement made that the revisions to the code pages were more challenging than changes to the main code. But if you purchase the code, you have to get changes for that as well. So I don't see that there's any difference in how that is appropriate applied. I think that the council should follow the direction that we agreed to from the tag level and move this to adoption on July 1st of next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Chris Edmark, go ahead.
Hi, this is Chris Edmark with Thurston County. I appreciate Micah's effort to get a code book. That's wonderful, but the only reason that that's not something that we typically would do is because they take so long to come out. We need the insert pages. We cannot do without the insert pages. We're not electronic driven. We just don't have that ability to do something electronically at this time. And I can understand that Micah, or excuse me, Stoyan has a good concern about where the underlines, omissions, and all of how ICC is going to need to denote what the changes are between the codes. Just thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Ryan, go ahead.
Hello, this is Ryan Muma with the City of Bellevue. I just wanted to point out that customers need access to a complete and final version of the next editions prior to the effective date. Some projects take several months of design and coordination prior to submittal. So I don't know if offering that, right around the time of implementation or shortly after is a good solution either. I also wanted to add that I've worked at several jurisdictions of varying size, and I've seen how important it is to ensure the code cycle change goes as smoothly as possible for the jurisdictions and their customers. Just like Sbcc staff, local governments and their customers are strained from staffing shortages and increased costs. In Bellevue, we're actually spending tens of thousands of dollars to create a custom code with state and local amendments, but other jurisdictions don't have that capacity. So even though this might not affect my jurisdiction as much as others, I'm definitely in support of the delay, knowing how challenging the changeover is and how critical it is for jurisdictions to be prepared and well equipped to assist their customers in order for their projects to be successful. So I hope that the council takes that in consideration and realizes how difficult it is to come together when we, I guess it's just a late time when we don't have all the info we need.
Thank you, Ryan. David Swayze, go ahead.
Yeah, David Swayze with the city of Bothell. So as you all know, the 2018 codes gave us our first opportunity to use incorporated codes with amendments in an electronic way. And a lot of people have moved to this. I appreciate people who still use books and that, but many have already moved to this, expecting it to be available. And then also the implementation date has been changed before. We adopted the 2018 code on February 1st of 2021. So it is possible. It's not impossible. And then WABO members are ready to help with this however we can. We're ready to aid in whatever steps we're able to be involved in to reach the November 1st date. But this is important for our teams. If we get electronic codes, we're going to have to take extra steps to then go verify state amendments separately, or we're just going to have to buy books, which in some cases is going to be more expensive. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Larry, go ahead. Krista.
Yeah,
Will you lower
I really like the idea of moving it till November as a contractor. Number one, it gives us more breathing time to get the parts that we're going to need. And it's going to give us some time for the people in the field to understand what's coming down the pathway. And to have it all in one book is really great. Okay. And I would be for that. I mean, the clearer we can make it, the better we're going to have out in the field of getting this implemented. And there's nothing worse than getting out in the field and then the inspector comes out and says, well, this code has changed, and you got to rip it out and start over again. I mean, the cost of that is extreme to the homeowner and to the contractor and everybody else down the line. And Micah getting it all in one book and making right there is going to make implementation a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Ty Jennings, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say this is Ty Jennings, Cascade Natural Gas, but I want to speak as a former code official for the city of Richland, Washington. The insert pages were absolutely essential. It is what I used in my day-to-day conduct of enforcing the building codes. When I was informed that those insert pages were not up to date, I asked staff and was directed by Stoyan to use the WAC. After researching the WAC page, I found that to be out of date. So as a jurisdiction who has a responsibility to provide the code to the public for which we serve, how are we supposed to do that if there's not some form of consolidated publication? By not providing that, we are not serving the public. We are absolutely providing a disservice to them, where they are going to encounter increased costs from having to re-perform work because they were not aware that there'd been a change. How are jurisdictions supposed to enforce the code if they don't have a resource that they can look at and see it compiled all in one document? This is going to just result in a just total mess where people don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So strongly encourage staff and WABO to work together to get a consolidated document together, both for the benefit of designers, code officials, and the public.
Thank you, Ty. Andrea, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, this is Andrea Smith with the Building Industry Association of Washington. We support this delay of implementation, and I just wanted to reiterate what some others had said in that this has happened before. I'll cite RCW 3405. 380, which states that the council can adopt a rule that delays the effective date of another rule that is not yet in effect. So there is definitely a mechanism for doing this. Appreciate the time today. And that concludes.
Thank you, Andrea. Dave, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dave Nakagwara with the City of Port Townsend. Been in code enforcement since 1991. So the first code was, of course, the 1988 UBC, came complete with state amendment insert pages, and has long become an expectation of the code official, our customers, including the home builder, homeowner. And I believe that in addressing, this implementation adoption date, if we hold to July 1st, 2023, you will have an adoption, but you will have an implementation in name only. You can pat yourselves on the backs with regards to being able to check that box saying that, okay, we've implemented it, but to the various code officials, big jurisdiction, small jurisdiction, who rely upon this form of communications, although imperfect and subject to further review and back checks, without this particular tool in hand that's been relied upon for years, decades, you're not going to have a true implementation. You're going to have a mess. And that's just coming from the experienced hands out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Ray Cockrum, go ahead.
Thanks, Ray Cockrum with WABO. WABO's participation in this is, I'm going to say, somewhat reluctant. We just feel duty bound to jump in and see what we can do to help jurisdictions throughout the state. All the points that I would make have already been made. I support the delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Angela Hopp, go ahead.
Okay, so Angela Haupt with the City of Kirkland. I just wanted to make sort of address a comment that was made earlier about what if we keep the date and then, we just get the inserts and then we move to the consolidated codes after that and, keep going. The problem with that is jurisdictions, designers, developers, whoever, they need their books to get training. They need their books to actually design. So the books and things are all being purchased well before the July date. So in order for this to make any sense, something has to be available for people to use when they need it, not after the fact for people that are designing for the next couple of years. And then for the comment about, with the inserts, people are inaccurate or, using an inaccurate code. Well, it's not perfect, but it's something. And without anything, that's when you're going to get people that are enforcing a completely inaccurate code. So thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Dave, do you have anything further on that? I wasn't sure if your hand's residual from before or not. Okay, very good. Anything further for public comment on this? Tim, go ahead.
This is Tim Atterbury with the Associated General Contractors of Washington. Just listen to all the testimony. I don't see how you could not do a delay. I mean, for our members, the one thing they value in their relationship with government is certainty. So let's focus on certainty and whatever gets us to certainty. In this situation, it sounds like a delay. Let's get to certainty for the private sector. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Anything further for public comment? Ty, go ahead.
Again, I just would like to ask staff, jurisdictions have a responsibility to have a copy of the code provided for the public. If this resource is not provided, how does staff propose jurisdictions accomplish that?
Anything further, Ty?
No.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll be moving back to council discussion. So we'll open the floor up to council members. Todd Bayreuther, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So if I understand what I'm hearing here correctly, the state has not had its own self-published consolidated code, and I'm curious. I've heard resource considerations, but I also heard, WAC considerations from Stoyan. Is there a reason why the state can't do that? And then layered into that, which cities have their own consolidated code? I assume the big cities like Seattle, Bellevue. Are there others that are already taking this approach of self-publishing?
I know Seattle is self-publishing. Other council members are more than welcome to help me out with that. Stoyan, do you know what jurisdictions are self-publishing?
I think Bellevue.
Bellevue is also. So those are the ones that I know of off the top. The other question that you had, Stoyan, are you prepared for that?
Yes, yes. So this is why I was working for 2024. Okay, so we need to make some changes, and I'll outline a few. So currently,
sorry, for quickly clarification to council members, our training has been postponed. There was a conflict that came up, and so moving it on the agenda ultimately ended up bumping our training. More news to come on that. So with that, I will give the floor back to Stoyan. My apologies, Stoyan.
Sorry. Staff, we currently don't have a workforce to develop WAC and develop a code, publish a code. We need to double the size of the council staff, which I'm not proposing that, or we need to make some changes to the WAC. And I was discussing with Dirk if there is any legal way of not adopting code language in WAC, keep the policies and procedures in WAC, and adopt the model codes with Washington amendments by reference. In this case, we can invest our time developing codes, and we cannot start right now. I don't have the answer yet. The other thing is group 1, group 2. This is killing stuff, okay? I don't know why we have group 1, group 2. I know Michael will say we are following the ICC process, that's fine. But if we don't have group 1, group 2, we will be able to have the first draft of the code by end of the year, right? And we have 6 months for the jurisdictions to take a look at that. And I have some ideas that I was planning to discuss with the council in January. So Micah surprised me with his desire. Another thing, currently we have 9 or 10 technical advisory groups. Some of them are good, others not. There are reasons for that. These folks are helping us. They're volunteers, they have jobs, they have families. So I was planning to propose to the council to have less technical advisory groups. Senator Wilson made good suggestions about ethic trainings for the technical advisory group members, and evaluating again how we vote on the seats for the technical advisory groups. So anyway, these are many things that we needed to go through, and I was preparing something for January and February, and this surprised me. Okay, so my desire is to adopt and publish a good Washington code, but I don't want to publish something that I'll be ashamed of. The Washington Administrative Code. The Washington Administrative Code, the requirements there are up to date. Okay, this is the formal document. Are there mistakes there? Yes, for many reasons, but we follow the requirements in the Administrative Procedures Act. Okay, we can't make the changes like that. Even if we have a quote or insert pages, somebody finds a mistake, we cannot make the change until we run a rulemaking and change it in the WAC. So everything you have in the WAC is the legal document that all jurisdictions are required to use. Developing codes, again, I'm all for it, but I don't want to start at the end of the process, even with the extension date. there are many things. The plan was we'll have the code adopted in November, our codes. Staff will have time to file the codes because again, this is where our work start picking up. Staff will have December and January to file the codes. And then we were planning to have a few months to fix errors and mistakes in the codes. And then develop well, I wasn't planning insert pages. Again, I thought I was proposing a good document that will replace the insert pages. And I attended the WABO meeting in April. And I was clear what I was planning to do. And I told WABO and the members that attended the meeting, I said, folks, I want to develop something. I want to send it to you. Take a look, evaluate it. If you like it, I will develop the same for all codes. If you don't like it, I will go back to the insert pages. That was my proposal. Haven't heard anything back. I thought everybody agreed with it. I started working on this document. I gave a little bit of it, but so everything changed. So this is where we are.
Todd, anything further?
Nope, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Stein.
Thank you. Jay Arnold, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mike, I appreciate you bringing this issue to our attention, but I have some concerns over changing the effective date of the code to solve what appears to be an administrative issue without more information, and especially a written proposal that would be voting on as a council on what would be happening between the original implementation date in November 2023. I'm hearing two things from the public hearing. Some jurisdictions value the insert pages historically provided, and some jurisdictions have already moved to digital and combined formats. If staffing or other issues are preventing the delivery of that information on time, and these jurisdictions that are moving to the combined or digital formats that haven't been historically provided by the Sbcc need this information, any proposal for the details of how we change that execution needs to come from a staff recommendation. I'm concerned about voting today on an implementation that's reliant on an external organization that we don't even have written information about what we're voting on. Is there any question for staff? Is there any reason why we need to act today on this motion? Thank you.
Staff, if your question was for staff wasn't aware of, I learned from Micah like 2 weeks ago, I think, about there. I had a discussion with ICC because I don't know what the agreement between WOW and ICC was. And as I said, I worked with ICC folks when I was in California. So I get a discussion with them. And then I met with ICC and Micah and Tara on Wednesday. So again, we all agree that the code is needed. My disagreement is that it shouldn't be right now. It shouldn't be building a house without a foundation. This is how I see it. You know, we need to build the foundation first and then build the house. Whatever your decision is today, I will comply with it, but I'm trying to outline the issues from staff perspective.
But Stoyan, for what you need from direction from us, is there anything critical that's saying we need a decision on September 23rd versus coming back with some more information, something written from a proposal, codifying some of these discussions that are happening? Is there any reason why we have to act at today's meeting?
Sbcc has no contract with ICC. I don't know if WABO has a contract or just a conversation. Sbcc doesn't. ICC, in order to publish a code, they need permission or a vote from the council that we are allowing them to publish the code with Washington amendments. I'm not sure about the legal format of that, but ICC needs a permission to do that. And then working together with WABO? Well, again, staff can help as much as we can. We just need to be clear on the product that WABO and ICC, the product they are developing. And we need to be clear on the fact that staff will be helping WABO because staff has no contractual agreement with ICC, not the other way around. I think this is important.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of details that need to be worked out, and while a extension may be necessary, I'm not sure that I'm prepared to vote on such today without seeing those details in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Micah, go ahead.
I don't know where to start to begin answering all these questions. So just to kind of go back to what the state did previously, Jay, to maybe answer some questions and story and say there's no contract, there's no approvals. The Washington Custom Code was produced for 2018 as a printed book with the Washington State seal on it based on approval from either Sbcc staff and the Code Revisor's Office for the state. So again, if we don't produce a book, we're going backwards. There was a lot of comments on insert pages. Stoyan came in April, late April, and said, I'm not producing insert pages. Now he's coming here, even at the last meetings that I've had with him, he said, I'm not producing insert pages. Today, he's offering to offer some insert pages. However, that could be one step. But, when he talks about talking to the WABO members, now we're changing our tune. The meeting he was at was about 10% of the WABO members. And because he hasn't heard from us, we had one more meeting. And then after that meeting, he heard from us. So I think the timeliness of what we're bringing forward and our concerns of not having something that users, not just code officials, but actual users of the code across the state need to have. So, I mean, again, we don't want to necessarily delay the implementation either, but we also want to have something that's usable. Stoyan has already made it sounds like he's making some of the arguments for us in that the WAC is not accurate. The WAC is not, always complete. It doesn't show strike through and underline. It doesn't show deletions. And so you have to take some random document and compare it to another document to get something close to usable. I guess that's the question right now. How do users find the information in a complete package? They don't. In 2018, they did, even if it had inaccuracies, but that's the process. Sometimes there are errata that need to be produced. And we haven't done that necessarily as the council yet. There's so many things that I need to cover. When Story mentioned that the group 1, group 2, I didn't make those rules. I didn't set those rules. It does align with the ICC process. But my understanding was when I came on board that they moved to that cycle so it was easier for staff to produce the codes over the 3-year cycle. That was my understanding. I could be wrong. I'm not sure who has that historical knowledge, maybe Mr. French or some others that were here before me. I just don't have that answer. So again, we are trying to get something out there. I believe that we could get with ICC a digital version out by that July deadline. Maybe, at least maybe for a few of maybe we could prioritize the codes. Maybe we could say by that date, we could get the building code and the residential code out in a digital format. So it's not that there won't be things available. There's not going to be anything available now. Stoyan says, I'm not producing anything but a PDF document that shows the code changes. That's it. The only code that Sbcc staff has said will be complete and done as a complete package will be the energy code. The rest of them are on their own. That's not equitable across the board. That's my argument as well. So, as far as equity's sake, I understand that, certain users get a complete code and others don't. And I don't think that's fair. It's a disservice again to the folks we represent. Thanks.
Thank you, Micah. Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, very interesting conversation. A lot of points to make. A few things that I've taken away. Number one, different people use the codes differently, and I'm one of those. On the one hand, I do like to have inserts because that's a place where I can find all of the changes quickly and easily. But I understand there are a lot of people, and maybe this is an age thing, a lot of people that use electronic. I know most of our younger engineers are using electronic. So, but the point being, for us to make a decision one way or the other on saying one way of producing this code or publishing this code is better than the other, I don't think is accurate, because different people want different things. And we've heard that from the public. I do want everybody to understand there are already very major decisions being made on the code language. We make them every day. Being a designer, and you know, Micah, you keep talking about the users being WABO members, but there are a whole lot of people that are not WABO members that are users of the code. And we are already, starting 4 or 5 months ago, major decisions are being made whether we try to design a building under the current code or wait until the new code. And you know, many, probably millions of dollars one way or the other of, do you design this building now and push it in and get it under the current code, or do you wait? And you know, just, you know, part of that is understanding what the impacts are and what the major impacts are. On the structural side, it's pretty easy because it's based in the IBC. Those changes are out there. We understand what those changes are. I think in the energy code, trying to make those decisions now, comparing what the new Washington State Energy Code is going to be compared to the existing, is harder to do because we've made bigger changes. I do think the accuracy of the code publication is always going to be a question. And I think the question we're talking about really is a degree of accuracy at this point. I don't think there's ever been a code that has been issued without an errata coming out. So no matter what, there is going to be an errata. And so what I would like for us to do is really, we're going to issue a code. What I think we're talking about is just how is it issued? Is it issued as one full document or not? It's still the same code. It's still the same language that we are trying to adopt. It's really a publication question. So my question to maybe to Stoyan and then to Micah is, and this is how I always try to make a decision. If we say we're going to leave the date as July 1st, what is the best way that we can publish the information that we have? What is the timeline that we can have? Spell out for us. We can have this document by this date. So we can, if we're being asked to judge the best way to implement this, depending on date, we need to really have a clear understanding of what would happen if we said July 1st. And then my question to Micah, the follow-up would be is, okay, if we're going to say we're going to delay it till November 1st, how much better, how much more accurate are we going to be? And I don't have a clear understanding of what that is. And I also really appreciate Jay's comment about wondering if we really have to make the decision today. If we can continue to move forward, assuming July 1st, like we have been planning, make, you know, better define what it would look like for a November 1st adoption, and make that decision a month when we have our next meeting. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Roger. Al, I'm showing your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Micah, I'm glad to see that you're sitting down because I'm going to agree with you and I don't want you to fall over. You know, I think one of the reasons why when the Building Code Council was structured, they decided to have elected officials on this. It wasn't because of our wealth of knowledge. It was because we're on the front line interacting with the public and the ones that actually have to try and administer the decisions made by the Building Code Council. And so, you know, I know that governmental officials, elected officials really strive to have not only quality product, but quality service. Because we are a service agency here. We are here to serve the interest of the public. And so when there are codes or there are new rules or new regulations that are not readily available to the public, then I don't know that that leads to good service. And so I was here when we delayed the implementation of the 2018 because of COVID. Even at that, we were absolutely inundated between people not being able to show up to work because of the infection and everything else. It was a devastating experience, and we are still just working our way out of it. So I don't know that a delay from July to November is going to change the way the Earth rotates, but it's certainly going to impact our users, our customers, our taxpayers, and their ability to have good access to the information that regulates what they can and cannot do. And I think without having that access and ease of use, we're doing a disservice to the taxpayers, doing a disservice to our citizens. And so I would wholeheartedly support what Micah's suggesting. I mean, Micah's on the front line. He's having to deal with this, not only with the designers, but with the public. You heard earlier, Dave Nakagawara, who I've known for decades, quality building official and expressing the same concerns. So I take that with a great deal of value and support what Micah is advocating for. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Chell, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I guess what I heard from the testimony, obviously there were many different points being made, and some, including some that were oppositional, but what I heard was that insert pages are very popular and necessary. And probably, and from what I heard from Micah, the reason why we're having this conversation is because staff had suggested that they were not producing insert pages. It appears that insert pages are popular and useful and necessary. So what I heard Sion say was insert pages are possible this cycle. And maybe we didn't hear that before today, but that's what I heard him say today. So I guess liking to figure out best ways forward, I guess I don't understand what the problem is. If we've had insert pages in the past and they're very popular from all the testimony, and we can produce them this year, then I don't know what the real challenge is. We could do something better, like produce a code book, and I think that's the infrastructure we should plan for next cycle. But yeah, I guess I don't understand what the challenge is if staff can produce insert pages. Insert pages have been successful for many years in the past.
Thank you, Joe. Senator Wilson, floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm going to also agree with Micah here. So it's kind of a surprise today. Hey, so what I'm hearing here is how important these pages are, and I don't deal directly with that, but my industry, we are in this industry and we do deal directly with the codes. But we're a small business, and like many other small businesses in the state, we need to have as succinct and concise information as we can, because what we don't want to do is set them up for failure, because businesses try to comply, but not always do they understand fully. And if these pages inserted will help that, I think that that's an absolute. I question whether we really, as the building code, have the authority to actually change an energy code anyway. But right now we know that even some of our small businesses are having trouble, even larger businesses, I guess, are having trouble complying with the 2018 code changes because of many, supply side issues that are still continuing, and we have no idea when they're going to end. And so, these are major changes in this, in this next change, in this next group in CR 102 and 3. I really don't want to create a pathway where they will accidentally fail because we don't have something concise and precise and clear. So I would agree that whatever we need to do to make sure that that information is solid. And it's not, I mean, extending it a few more months is in the big scheme of things isn't going to change that much, except that it will help the small business or all businesses to comply.
Thank you, Senator Wilson. Micah, go ahead.
I appreciate all the agreement from the folks that don't always agree with me. Back to a couple of points though. Roger indicated, what would we be getting with this delay? We'd be getting a complete package of code that is user-friendly across the board, whether that's a digital format or a printed format. Again, for those folks that decide which one they want to use, we would have those in a complete package without having to go find an insert page or a whack rule to make it work. To answer a couple of things for Chael, you know, yeah, the insert pages aren't horrible, but my understanding is they're just the same amount of time to produce as producing the code page for inserting the code change. And then you talked about, would we be going forward in the future producing codes? We produced a code last cycle, the Washington Custom Building Code, with the Washington State seal on it, approved by the code revisor's office. So if we don't produce a code, we are going backwards. We're not taking a step forward in the future. We're going backwards now if we don't. I do want to make the point Stoyan kept bringing up about a contract. WABO did not have a contract and does not have a contract with ICC. The only thing WABO has with ICC was a marketing agreement on codes. So it's not a contract to do work. It's not a contract to make money. It's a marketing agreement. And then I think that's bad. I'm trying to write some stuff down, but again, I think that the timeline would be not too long. The other item, that the November date that I would like to make a motion for, also was discussed about vesting. A lot of jurisdictions, their end of financial year is, 1st of July. So then folks are trying to vest and get stuff in before they change fees in July. So that's kind of a tough time. And then we were cognizant of the holidays. So if you make a January 1 deadline, we heard from designers that they have to work through the holidays to get these projects done, to get them submitted on time so they can vest to the previous code. So the November date is a good balance, and that's what we're looking for. Again, we're not trying to push it really far out. We're just trying to find a little extra time to produce code books for everybody to use. Thanks.
Thank you, Micah. I understand that we still have more comment from council members. To Micah's point, I do want to say, just as a point of conversation, since it has come up, with the insert pages, I know a large group of code officials throughout the state that prefer the insert pages and actually are not a big fan of just the published Washington State code. I think one of the disservices that does to a code official is it completely wipes out the model code that has been redacted. And so referencing back to it requires you to pull up the model code. Also, if someone has a question as to why that's not adopted or what the model language does say. And so I think if we do this, it's my opinion that we do both and it's not just one. So I will say that. So Todd, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with that comment also. So I'll bring a couple of points here. Thank you, Micah, for bringing this forward. I wasn't aware of this concern. And thank you, Stoyan, for sharing what the barriers are in the agency and perhaps resources or WAC or so forth. It's educational. It's necessary. We have this public, conversation. Representing manufacturing and indirectly representing, design and engineering professions, the construction professions. I have to say, in my one sector of the manufacturing and supply chain industry, we need to move forward on the timelines. Roger, talked about engineering firms, so forth, designing, making major decisions. I just returned from a 4-day workshop in Madison where we had 150 code officials, the committees that are developing the standards, the practitioners, the engineers, and so forth. We're ready for these changes. We're designing 12 to 18 story buildings under the changes that will take effect on these codes. And so, these are $5 million packages on materials, things like that. We're ready for this. The technical knowledge is there. So I'm hearing that there's a challenge on the implementation piece. And so we have to put the resources behind that. So if it's the legislature needs to do appropriations, and we need to support the local jurisdictions on writing their, and getting the materials they need, the code officials, or at the state level. Ironically, this is not, I don't hear the same thing. I serve on our local plan commission where we're developing development code, and it's more of a local versus state battle of how it's implemented. But Commerce has the resources they need now to come in and help these jurisdictions. It's still a struggle, but I don't hear that same level of resources being put into, delivering this. So Stoyan, I'm very sensitive to what do you need? And what does this code council need to do to support, and tell the legislature, tell the, what you need to get this done on time. So thank you. I don't support extending it. I think we need to throw more resources out to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Craig, go ahead.
So like many of you, I agree with many parts of this whole discussion. I appreciate Micah bringing it up. I am, I guess, curiously frustrated that I came expecting one agenda and we've allowed this particular item to take the agenda off the table. I think Mr. Arnold made some really great points. Why do we need to make this decision right now? Mr. Harenga also made some great points that, yeah, we've got to deliver this by July 1st and different things like that. I don't think personally, I have enough information to make a wise decision. I've heard a lot of anecdotal situations and thoughts and reasons. I'd like to hear not just from Stoyan, I'd like some study to be done. Number one, find out what is required to be the most effective document to be issued. And if that's an 80-20 rule or 90-10 rule or something like that, yeah, it's never going to be perfect. What is it going to take? And then Stoyan and his team tell us by July 1st, I can provide this. Likening this to a project, if I wind up in a situation where I can't get enough people to work on a job, I either have to develop a recovery plan, or I have to go to the owner and say, we need to extend by 15 days. I'm prepared to do either if it makes sense. I just don't think right now we have enough information to do either. I'd love the July 1st, but it's got to be a document that is to say profitable for everybody and functional for, 90% of the people. I don't have enough information to make that. So I guess I'm kind of landing where Mr. Arnold was saying is, let's put this in. We got a meeting again next month, I believe, right? Put that on the agenda and have some study done behind the scenes. So Stoyan can legitimately come and say, okay, I need either 3 more staff people, or I need to do it August 1st. And with respect to what Mr. Harenga and other people have said, that you're planning your trainings and things like that, I appreciate that. But if we give you not a fully baked cake, I don't know that we're helping you. So if their emotion was available for me to make, I would say, let's postpone, let's table this discussion today with some direction to go do some study, provide real information so we can make it the best decision possible in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, I just will reiterate, I think I agree with Craig. I don't believe that I'm prepared today to vote to delay. And I go back to, we are approving the code, period, no matter what. What we're talking about is how we are getting the information out there to people. And I feel I have not heard enough information that says what we could produce by July 1st is not acceptable. While I agree with Micah, if we could on November 1st have a full code that's fully baked and integrated, sure, that's better. But I have not heard any reason why, if we said July 1st, that Stoyan and staff couldn't produce a way for us to publish these documents that is acceptable. I mean, right now, the state building code, all of our members have weeded through and we've been able to figure out the information and we understand it. The information is there. And between now and July 1st, we can get that information pulled together more easily. I'm assuming that's through the insert pages, but you know, some way that we can make July 1st work. And so I'm not prepared to delay it at this point.
Thank you, Roger. Micah, go ahead.
Great points, everyone. Thanks for chiming in. To respond to some of the points Tony talked about, showing stuff in the codes to make sure it's accurate. We do think there should be some modifications to how it's shown in the code with some strike through and underline. That way it's easier to identify. I also made a suggestion of showing the Washington Amendment with in front of each code section with a bracketed W. That way a digital version, it is searchable and it is identified as what a Washington Amendment is without having to do a lot of research. To Todd's point.
Sorry, Micah, just quickly to that while you're on that. What I kind of had in mind on that is with a version of the code that we changed for the IPMC in Yakima, we kept the model language with almost like a strike through that you can still read. And then right below that with a pointer to the city of Yakima change. It just, then it keeps the user from having to open up the model code and have it right next to you to reference if need be, which comes up in questions from your customer base. So that's kind of, but it sounds like you're on the right lines there.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing. Strike through underline with a W that shows what's being modified and leaves the original language so you can see it. I think that's a great plan.
Okay,
then for Todd and others and Roger, I understand the timing of industry and getting stuff and preparing projects. One of the things I want to point out is most jurisdictions that I know of, again, we're not delaying adoption, we're adopting this code. So most jurisdictions I'm aware of will allow you to use the most or the latest version of adopted code, even if it's not printed, if you request it. So in other words, if we delay the implementation date to November 1st and your project is ready by July 1, you have the ability to go into that jurisdiction and say, hey, can I design this to the 2021 version of this code? And every jurisdiction I've talked with or met with, they will allow that no problem. Because you are advancing what you're doing. You know, we're not necessarily going backwards in code. So I don't think that not being able to use this code on July 1 or implementing it July 1 is necessarily a hindrance there, because if you're already designing those projects to July 1, you can still submit them that way. You just have to have that additional request. And then I agree with Todd as well. And I think Craig mentioned that. Craig, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, about Sbcc staff. WABO discussed that thoroughly. You know, WABO and their code officials have a great deal of support for the Sbcc and worked with legislators last time to get additional funding for additional staff and expand the Sbcc staffing. We have discussed this thoroughly and would like to look and maybe talk with some of the legislators here about moving some legislation that would put in requirements of what the Sbcc should produce for all the users. And with that, tie in some funding for additional staffing. So we are in support of that. Understanding that they don't have a timeline to get that done right now. That's how we got all these WABO volunteers, a lot of code officials, some private organizations that are WABO members, to come in and say, hey, we work with these codes every day. We have an understanding of what you would need, and we're going to volunteer our time to do that. I know that there's a lot of folks that are concerned about volunteer groups. However, this group wants to get something out there that they can use. They don't want to let the state down or their customers either. So they felt that this timeline was accurate. So I really think that we shouldn't table this necessarily. However, I'm not opposed to delaying a vote on this until October, where we have a little more time to process it, maybe provide staff some time to respond. So to Jay's point, and I think Roger's point on maybe, and even Greg's point, not having enough information today to take a vote, that's okay. It's not a required action today. It's just, you can take action today on the agenda. And so I'm okay with delaying that vote till October if that's what we need to do to have further discussions and to have better understanding of the issues. However, you have at that point, you may have longer testimony because it'll be open for public comment again. And you've already heard from a lot of folks that this is an issue and we have a way to solve that, in our opinion. And if you need more than that, we can definitely delay the vote until October. I don't think anyone's opposed to that. You know, this is just a conversation that we need to have to provide our users of the Washington state codes with something that is complete and accurate and user-friendly. Thanks.
Thank you. Senator Levick, floor is yours.
Yeah. Yes, just a quick comment. I was listening to some of the comments made, and I was actually going to talk about the Sbcc staff in the future. And I really want you to know that I'm sitting here, and I know the other members of the legislature, particularly Representative Ramo, and I are sitting here to make sure, in part, that you have the resources needed to have access to local government. So I would really, I welcome the comment on additional staff in the future, but I appreciate what I've heard so far.
Thank you, Senator. Go ahead, Stoyan.
I want to clarify where the funding is coming from for the Sbcc. We collect fees from local billing departments. We got some extra money, but when we didn't get more funding, we got approval for more authority to spend. Okay, so if we keep pushing for more money for staff, there are two options. We need to increase the fees we're collecting from billing permits, or we need to get money from the general funds. So these things are important. Again, we increased the pay for our code specialists because we were having a really hard time to hire anybody. For 6 months, we had 6 applications. So even with the money, it's difficult to hire anybody. And again, talking about money, it's very important how we got our funds. You know, it's from billing permit fees. It's not from the general fund. So when we say we'll give you more money, well, it's not more money. We have a ceiling. This is what we collect. If we want to exceed that, we need to increase the money for we're getting from the billing permits, which I don't suggest. Okay, time for staff. If you want to make a decision today, I will tell you that staff has time to produce insert pages or the document I was offering to WABO, which I think it's better than the insert pages, but nobody wanted to see it. Or we can help WABO with whatever they're doing with ICC, but we cannot do all 3 at the same time. Even if the date is pushed to November, staff cannot do insert pages and helping WABO with the same time.
Thank you. Jay, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion on the table to direct staff to come back to our October meeting.
Clarification, just clarification there.
Yep.
Sorry, there is no motion on the table.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to bring back to our October meeting some options for delivering the code in different formats requested with staff time or in coordination with external groups, and the timeframes that they can do so.
Okay, we have
For
a
a decision by the council of the future meeting.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, and it was Craig the second.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll open it up to discussion.
I need to re-raise my hand.
I got you, Micah. We'll go Chell and then Micah. Sorry, I have Chell's before you. Go ahead, Chell.
Yeah, that's fine. I wasn't sure if he was going to talk to the motion. Thanks.
I was going to suggest that we have I don't know, committee is the right word, but a group that includes Micah, Stoyan, and a few other interested parties that come together and propose one or more paths forward. I think it's similar to your motion, Jay, but I think it would be more comprehensive, and that it would include not just staff doing this work, but actually people from the Building Code Council volunteering to be part of a small group to attempt to put a path forward for this year and future code cycles as well.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I have no objection to staff working with a group. I want to make sure that any proposal that comes forward on implementation is one that's coming from staff. However, so I don't know if a change of the motion, an amendment to the motion is required to accomplish what you're talking about. Hopefully it could just happen behind the scenes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Jill, do you have anything further on that? I know I got you, Mike. I won't forget about you, I promise.
Yeah. I guess I would also request that to the extent Micah's involved or not involved, that Micah or Wabo put together a written document of how this book would get produced, who's doing it, what are the timeframes, what are the staff touch points from their perspective, and if it aligns exactly with staff's proposal, great. But if not, that we have something written in advance, a week in advance of the meeting to look at, review, and discuss, so that we're not just talking abstractions, but actually talking about this is the month, this is who, this is staff touch points, and we generally agree that this could get done.
Thank you, Joe. Micah, go ahead.
So talking to the motion, I'm not necessarily against it. I do know that we've worked and talked with Stoyan quite a bit about this, and honestly, it's just been pushed back, doesn't want to do it. So I'm not sure you're going to get something that's going to satisfy enough information to get a vote on, but we'll go from there. One of the things I wanted to point out is the work we would do with ICC and the WABO volunteer group, providing the code changes, those would actually be able to produce insert pages as well, because you're pretty much taking that code change and inserting it into the code book where it's supposed to go. So that in turn, that's exactly what you're doing for an insert page, or really close to it. Again, that's why I said the insert pages are not much less work than doing an entire code book, because it's the same process. So pretty much if we went this route, which is what we're requesting, and produced an entire code, we could also produce the insert pages if that's what folks want, because it's the same process. And if you're wondering how I know this, so most of you may not be aware, I work for the city of Seattle as their technical code development manager. Seattle adopts 11 codes, plus my team is responsible for Seattle Municipal Code Title 22, which covers our geotech and all these other various codes. We have our own conveyance code, electrical code, boiler code. So we do put those together. So I know this process very well. I understand what ICC needs to get it done. We can produce those insert pages as we produce the entire code. So my team for Seattle produces actually more codes than the State Building Code Council does. So I understand this process thoroughly. I know what it's going to take. I'm sure we can provide some type of roadmap, as Chell is asking for the WABO group. And I'm hoping that SBCC staff can provide us with whatever documents we need to make sure we're accurate in getting these codes done. So thanks. And I want to speak to some of the other points made. No, I won't. I'll be quiet. But I'm okay with moving the vote like Mr. Arnold suggested to the next meeting, so that way everybody has enough time to be satisfied they're providing enough information, or provided enough information to make a good vote. Thanks.
Thank you, Micah. Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the motion for sure. And I'm hopeful that at our next meeting, we can have a real clear understanding of what would be, what we will be able to produce for a July 1st date. And at the same time, Mike, I mean, what you just described is great. You know, if we are completely certain that a November 1st would allow us to have all of that information, then I may be, you know, it may make sense to me. But so let's come back next month with a really clear understanding of those two paths forward. So that's my hope.
Thank you, Roger. Micah, go ahead.
I forgot my one thing I wanted to respond to was to Craig and the rest of the SBCC. I apologize. This took up the entire thing. That was not my intent. I was okay with us not moving this because I thought the presenters on the ethics training could come back. So I apologize for messing up the agenda that bad. That was not my intent. So sorry about that.
Okay, any further discussion for the motion on the table? Okay, with that, we will go to a roll call, and just so we're all clear on what we're voting on, Mr. Arnold, I hate to put you on the spot. If you could just give us a brief overview of your motion.
Yes, it's directing staff to come back with options for us at our next meeting for implementation details, including formats and timelines.
Thank you, sir. Okay, with that, we'll do roll call.
Shell Anderson,
Aye.
Jay Arnold,
Aye.
Todd Byerther,
Aye.
Micah Chappell,
Aye.
Damon Doyle,
Aye.
Al French,
Aye.
Bob Hamlin,
Aye.
Roger Haringa,
Aye.
Craig Holt,
Aye.
Pete Reiki,
Aye.
Katie Sheehan,
Yes.
Carolyn Traub,
Aye.
Corey Wilker.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And we have items of public comment that we're expecting.
I think so, yes.
Okay. I'd like to take a 5-minute recess before we go to public comment on items not on the agenda. So let's go ahead and take a 5-minute recess. It's 12:06. We'll come back at 12:11. Thank you. Okay, we'll call this meeting back to order, and we'll just start with a roll call to make sure that we still have everyone in attendance.
Okay, Tony Doe,
Here.
Shell Anderson.
Here.
Jay Arnold,
Here.
Todd Byerther, Michael Chappell,
Here.
Damon Doyle, Al French,
Here.
Bob Hamlin,
Here.
Roger Haringa. Yes. Craig Holt,
Here.
Pete Reiki, Katie Sheehan, Carolyn Traub,
Yeah.
Corey Wilker.
Oh, made it in nick of time here.
And I'll go back, Todd Byerther,
Here.
Damon Doyle,
Here.
Roger Haringa,
Here.
Pete Reiki, Katie Sheehan,
Here.
just missing Pete.
Okay, excellent. We should always go 10-minute recess. That's on me. 5 goes by too fast. So, okay, let's get back to the agenda. So the next agenda item is agenda item number 6. Well, now 5, I guess. Well, we'll call it 5. Public comment on items not on the agenda. So this would be open to public comment. Please keep it to items that have not been discussed. Pull that up so I can see the raise of hands. Okay, Al Spalding, go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. My name's Al Spalding. I'm with the Washington State Department of Health, Program Manager with the Construction Review Services Program. And I'm approaching the council today to ask for the council's support in repealing the current state amendment in section 310.5. And this is effectively the state amendment that that cancels out the R4 occupancy classification option that the model code affords. And I'll just provide a little context here. Basically some background during the review and adoption process undertaken for the 2006 ICC model codes. Our program, CRS, before my time, though, was a proponent for not adopting the R4 occupancy classification. And that amendment has remained on the books since. And while at the time there was good justification for such an amendment, Construction Review Services no longer has any reason to support this amendment moving forward. As a matter of fact, as the model codes have evolved, the R4 occupancy classification and option currently provides a safe option that should be considered for use in Washington. And we would suggest that if this amendment was repealed and we went back to the model code language, Washington adopted building codes would closer align with the model codes, and it would provide a safe and affordable occupancy classification option for licensed residential treatment facilities providing voluntary mental health and substance abuse services. We are currently reviewing 3 applications for licensed RTFs where the proponents have proposed to use the R4 occupancy classification. These are proposals for voluntary facilities. So the facilities are not locked down. There's no controlled egress, nor do they provide any restraint or seclusion. So residents, although they're inpatient, they can come and go as they please. Currently, we are actively looking to support these proposals using the R4 occupancy classification. And I'm going to keep it brief, so I just want to let you know I'm available for questions or concerns. Kind of early this morning, I sent Stoyan a brief email to this effect, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate it. Any questions for Al from council members? Okay. Oh, okay, Micah, go ahead.
I think Chael had his hand up first.
I apologize. I'm not seeing Chel's hand, so I don't know what's going on. I see it now. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chel. I'm struggling over here.
Okay, sorry, no worries. My immediate question is this something that we are at liberty to do something about at this point in the code process? And that's a question for staff and I guess any other council members that can shed light on that.
It's a really bad time for changes right now, but if it's important, I assume all is just raising the concern and we can continue in October. The issue right now is that this is in the building code. So we already adopted part 1, which is the non-structural provisions. This includes section 310.5. So it's adopted, but it's not effective yet. So we follow specific provisions, specific requirements and formatting from the code revisor's office. So Krista and I need to use our brains on this one and see what can be done.
Okay. Anything further, Chel?
No, that was my.
Okay,
that's me.
Excellent. Micah, go ahead.
So Al, I just had a kind of a curiosity question on, is there something that is moved into an R3 occupancy under the similar section there in chapter 3 that allows the use of these R4 type uses under R3, or is there something in the 1 and 2 family dwelling that allows for that now as a Washington amendment? Can you give a little more history on why that amendment was made, and is it covered elsewhere? And would your request need then to correlate those other code sections?
Good question. Thank you, Micah. There is nothing currently in the codes and as amended that would allow us to use the R4 at all, either in the IRC or the IBC. It's strictly just not adopted. And the reason from a historical point was back in 2006, rather than adopt the model code, we came up with our own special, back then it was like, we had an LC occupancy classification, stood for licensed care facilities. And then moving forward, so in Washington, we took a very special approach to our licensed healthcare facilities. And when we did that, we didn't want to afford the opportunity for people to use the R4 instead of the very single one-size-fits-all approach that we had for licensed care facilities. And then moving forward around probably around 2009, 12-ish, what we did, we had a modified R2. We called it an R2 plus. It wasn't named that in the building code, but we took the R2 occupancy and then added all these mitigations to it. But what's happened over time is the model codes have evolved similar to the I1 condition 1 and 2. R4 now has the condition 1 and condition 2 that when we've done the analysis of the R4, we really believe it's a fantastic opportunity for licensed care facilities to take advantage of. And these would be, they're limited in size and there's sort of a risk assessment based on it. And this would be a considerably more affordable option to continue to support Washington's desire to build out the capacity and capacity for mental health and substance use disorder throughout the state that we're wholesale is underserved, I should say, in the state of Washington. Does that help?
It does. I guess my question kind of leads to what you mentioned under 308.2, where you've got the group I1 condition 2 that covers licensed care facilities that are indicated as, like you were mentioning, these R4 residential treatment facilities, and it specifies WAC language. So again, I guess that's my correlation question. Are you going to have to change other sections of code that are covered by an I4 condition 2 when you re-implement or want to re-implement the R4 occupancy classification?
No, I think we still do have assisted living facilities noted as an I1 condition 2 as an amendment to the state building code, Micah. But we remember we got into kind of a pickle. For a lot of reasons, the legislature has expanded the number of services that licensed residential treatment facilities can offer today. And so a one size fits all and putting Rtfs in an I1 condition 2 or 1 really doesn't fit. I mean, we have pediatric transitional care services that are providing services to babies that are born addicted to drugs. That's really a pediatric nursing home. So that would be an I2. We have today's Rtfs provide competency restoration, where people are receiving treatment so that they can potentially stand trial. That's really what we would probably call an I3 or a jail, perhaps, maybe not the best word, but a very controlled situation. And we have this full spectrum of services today. So what we'd like to, and then what we tried to do last cycle is put in a code proposal that would allow us to identify multiple occupancy designations for Rtfs because of the evolution of those services. That wasn't well accepted. And what we got into the code was for the occupancy designation of a licensed residential treatment facility, refer to the Department of Health's licensing chapter, which is WAC 246-337. We did open up a 101, but consequently, we have strong feelings about adopting building code provisions in our licensing chapter. We've since repealed that 101, or we killed it, whatever, we took it off the books. And we really feel that this opening up the R4 occupancy classification would really help us for Rtfs, would really help us expand and be able to meet the needs of the lower level, lower risk Rtfs that are being proposed. And the Department of Health feels really strong. We believe the building code provisions belong in the building code. And when people call us today and they say, well, have you developed rules about what the occupancies are? And we say, we have not, but what we're going to do is we're going to use the building code to determine those. One of the options that we don't have available to us based on risk, based on population, number of people being served, it would be super helpful if we had back the R4 occupancy classification.
Excellent. Thanks, Al. I know we worked together in the past on some of these topics. So if you wouldn't mind putting something together like that as an explanation as to why you want to remove the R4 I think, it's be something more broad we can work with and get a better understanding so we could, either explore that option, or at least if we can't get that as an off-cycle rule or it's not needed, then we could bring it next cycle. So thanks, Al.
Okay, thank you.
Jill, go ahead.
I guess, is there any idea that we would include it in the codes that we're adopting right now? Or is that just too far-fetched? Because I think the a tag should probably look at this. Once we have sufficient information on, if it's abundantly clear right now, we could convene the tag soon. If it's not abundantly clear, to Micah's point about rationale and what actually would need to change, then we should wait for that, get the tag together, and then I guess if it was reasonable to consider it as a public comment in upcoming public comment hearings, then that would be great. If not, then it is off-cycle rulemaking, and I guess that is extremely challenging from the consistency conversation we've had for the last several hours, and maintaining a book or addendums and pages and all that. So I guess if we think this is a legitimately idea worth exploring, then it seems like expediting the tag to gather and consider what this would actually mean for the code, if we want to do it this cycle, seems like to me a good idea.
Thank you, John.
This section was already adopted with group 1.
Oh, it's part of group 1?
It was part of group 1, yeah.
Okay, so there's no way we can adopt it in the next, well, it's certainly not.
No, it should be emergency or off-cycle rulemaking.
Okay, so from the standpoint of getting it part of the codes, there's no deadline, but from the consistency conversation we had recently, if we wanted to do it, doing it soon would be worthwhile.
Well, the best choice, as far as I see it, if we can complete this by July 1st or whatever the effective date is. But again, that's another drop into the lake. So, again, Krista and I will discuss it as a procedure, how we can do that if we get there.
There would probably be correlating changes that would need to be made, and other than just the building and residential code as well.
Yeah, and there is another request that is for childcare. Some inconsistencies between the definition in the residential and the building code and RCW related to a different state department. So there are other things that we need to pay attention to.
Okay, Micah, did you have anything further on this?
I'm sorry, I did have one more question for Al. He mentioned about they repealed some rules or information. Is that a repeal of WAC 20 or 246-337? Because we do reference that in the code. And if that has been repealed or is no longer active, then we should modify that as some, not necessarily a RATA, but before we go to publication of the new code. So Al, is that, can you clarify that?
That amendment is moving forward for the 2021. And the Department of Health currently doesn't have any intention to develop rules in our licensing chapter that identify occupancy types. However, we could do that. That would be, that's an opportunity for us to put building code provisions in our licensing chapter. And basically, I really like the opportunity to coordinate with my partners, with the local authorities having jurisdiction to identify proper building code provisions, especially, because the key to starting a project is identifying the occupancy versus putting it solely in the hands of the Department of Health. I'd much rather, I think it would be better to pursue that in the building code. However, we can do that because the current amendment that you're mentioning that says, look to this WAC licensing chapter, which is promulgated, administered by the Department of Health, a WAC 246-337. We could put rules in there, but it's really, I think, what we get out of this conundrum of having to do that, if we can potentially either consider it for this cycle or the next. But one of the challenges I want to bring one of the things that is kind of interesting is this amendment has stayed on the books since 2006, and I've been a current member of the TAG in a variety of the different TAG, either fire, building, mechanical, since at least 2012, and I'm still current member of the building code TAG. We have not had a conversation about why the R4 occupancy classification remains not adopted in the state for forever, since 2006. And it's really an unfortunate, it's a gap that we have right now in the offerings that the model code provides. And we cannot, now that we've done our analysis, and we can definitely put together a proposal for you folks. We've done a thorough analysis. We do not have a reason that would suggest that it's still a good idea for us not to adopt the R4.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from council on this topic that Al's brought to us? Okay, thank you, Al. Appreciate it. Sounds like you've reached out to Sbcc staff, and we've got a good starting point on this discussion. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move to Larry Andrews. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got 2 points I'd like to make. One is on the code changes that happen, that are occurring after the main code body's sent. Why couldn't we get them put out on the server list? So whenever we get an updated or change, why couldn't that be sent out on the server list? And then also on that server list, maybe have it identified with a different color or something. So it draws us our attention that, hey, we've had a code change here, and it brings more continuity to people that are trying to stay current. Otherwise, you got to just constantly go back and forth to the server page and keep checking to see what's the latest change. Where this way, when a change does come along, it would be at least put out to the server list, which most of us have, and we could get the update, and then maybe we could print that insert page and put into our book. Because like everybody says, there's always changes that happen to come along. And then my second point is, a lot of times I read articles and I like to send them to the council. And I don't blame Stowen for not pushing them through right now, but I would like to know, how can I get these articles to the council? Because I think it is important that these articles get sent, so the council has a point of view that other people take, and other things are brought up. And so every once in a while I send one to Stowen to send on to you. But sometimes they don't get through. And so I'm asking for consideration that these articles can go through. And so you as the council can get the information that you should have. I mean, there's information in the papers, in the NFPA articles that are written, and a lot of the periodicals that we get. And I think it's important that that information gets passed on to you people. And I'm looking for a clarification on how we can get these articles to you guys. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Micah, go ahead.
So I want to respond to Larry and defend Stoyan. I think Stoyan's doing a great job and everything else, regardless of the conversations we just had. But Larry, Stoyan does forward your messages to us. So I've gotten several with articles from Stoyan that where you had requested those be forwarded. So if you think they're not coming through, they are. I just don't know that we've had a forum that we needed to discuss them. I don't think they've been put on the agenda. However, Stoyan has been sending your requests to us. At least I've been getting them if other members have not. So just know that they are showing up. Thanks.
I was planning to talk about this during the staff report, but I can, after Jill, I can, I can clarify how we do that.
Go ahead, Jill.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna address that. I wasn't sure what Larry was talking about as far as the server and all those code things. I think, certainly communicating with people who are implementing the code and building things is really important. So if there is something in there that meant something to staff, I think that's these great comments. I do think, to your other point, Larry, we had thousands and thousands of people sign letters in support or opposing the commercial code recently. And I guess I shudder to think what would happen if each of those forwarded, even one article a year for the entire council to review. There's a lot of viewpoints out there, and I'm interested in what Stoyan's going to say, but I'm also just hesitant to think that this is not a LinkedIn board where you can post everything and it needs to go to everybody. I think lots of people have viewpoints, and lots of people could email Stoyan and ask it to be sent to the council, and I just think that could easily get overwhelming if everybody did that, even if more viewpoints would be represented by doing that.
Thank you, Jill. Go ahead, Stoyan.
That was my concern. I tried to forward everything, but when we get into a comment period, I'm a little bit afraid to, should I proceed with this or not? Some of these comments are very technical and good comments. Others are a little bit or more politicized. So I was going to ask the council for some kind of informal direction, how you want me to proceed with that. I can continue forwarding everything I get, or Krista and I were talking about having a web page that we can post everything for you, and if you want, you can check once in a while what we have there. We don't know yet how we can do it technically, but I think it's possible. I trust Krista. She said they've done it before. Or again, I can continue sending everything your way. My concern specifically, I will say it again, was the comment period, because we're receiving comments anyway. So for me, it's kind of difficult to judge which one is a formal comment, which one is for the council members only. So it's not that I don't want to send you everything. It's just I don't want to get blamed for overwhelming or doing damages to your mailboxes. So any unofficial advice, I would appreciate.
Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to say, Larry, I've been getting all of your missives, and I appreciate those greatly, just because of your reputation and your dedication to this organization. But I do have the same concerns about this becoming a chat board of some sort and getting way too much information. And I would like to note that in many cases, the information I get from a proponent does not support their argument. I think people need to be very careful about what they send to us, because I can read that and say, wow, that's not really very good science. It's not very good technology. And so in many cases, I think you need to be very careful about what you send us. It may be counterproductive to your argument. But I do have major concerns over getting way too much random information that's not vetted in some way, somehow. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Pete. Jill, go ahead.
Yeah, I think putting it on a web page would give some, I guess, additional credence as if council has vetted it in some way. So I don't think that's a great way to handle it. I think a better way to handle it might be to just, collect whatever has been sent in and put it as a link under public comment on, the agenda of the next meeting. And then if somebody, and then say, from so-and-so, and then a link to the article or whatever. I think that could be a good way of handling it. So it's not coming directly to our inbox, but it's certainly on the agendas. And then if somebody wants to bring it up as a item not on the agenda, they're more than welcome to, because I think we always have that on our agenda.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Any further comments on that from council members? Okay, is there any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Pete, go ahead.
You're on mute, Pete.
Can't hear you, Pete. You're on mute. Pete, you're on mute.
Okay. Do I have the floor and not making an idiot of myself?
Go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
So I
Floor is
just
yours.
wanted to say 5 minutes for a bathroom break may work for you folks, but that does not work for me. I have a lot more technical aspects to go through. So let's please consider that in the future, at least 10 minutes for a bathroom break. Thank you.
Pete, that is 100% on the chair, and I apologize for that. And that will not happen again, and we will go 10 minutes. I apologize. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay, with that, we will move to the next agenda item, which is other business. We'll start with council. Do we have any other business? Representative Ramel.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I guess I just wanted to suggest, following what happened at the beginning of the meeting today and has happened a couple of times recently, that the council dedicate some time, on a less busy council meeting to talk about sort of our priorities and agenda scheduling. Seems like we talk about reorganizing the agenda at the beginning of most of our meetings, and that doesn't happen on most of the other committees that I serve on or attend. So maybe we ought to just spend a little bit of time setting some priorities, and then really deputize the chair and or Stoyan to come up with a schedule and post it so the public knows what the plan's going to be ahead of the meeting and can have some reliability that it won't be changed. Check.
Agreed, Representative Ramel. Thank you.
It's somehow difficult to predict the time. So we don't have the history of having time in the agenda. And we try to switch a little bit and keeping the other business and items not on the agenda at the bottom because of our experience, what happened in a few meetings, but it's up to the council members, how they reorganize it. It took me a while, and thanks to Dirk and Jennifer and Kate to schedule this training for the council members. And you can tell I wasn't happy with it, but it's up to the council members to make the decision. So everything I need to do, I'm open, to organize it better. But at the same time, I'm just serving you, and I don't make the decisions.
Anything further, Representative Ramel?
Yeah, thank you. So just to clarify my suggestion, it's not necessary that the council would sort of decide how the agenda should be set, but that we would all kind of agree on principles. Like, Micah said at the beginning of the meeting, we want to keep the public comment, the public who's attending the meeting, we would like to give them some, ability to plan their day around our meeting. So that would be, something along those lines would be a principle. I think we could probably discuss and agree on some more. But then in the future, we wouldn't have to have as many disagreements about, what order we should do things in if we've agreed on principles ahead of time. Check.
Agreed. Thank you. Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, I would support what Alex says, that the public comment, I think, should other than say approving minutes, which is usually standard procedure for most meetings. But anything that involves public comment should come first and foremost, especially if it's on a specific issue. Something like public comment on things not on the agenda, maybe that can be put off, but I think we have to do all we can to do our utmost to respect the public input. I get a lot out of that, and I enjoy hearing from folks regardless of their technical expertise and their background. So public input is my first and foremost priority in I think in setting the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Micah, go ahead.
I think that Zoom needs a thumbs up icon, so maybe you wouldn't have to hear me talk so often. But I agree with Representative Romel's comment there on, adjusting. And I, again, want to apologize for the ethics training item. That was not my intention for us to not have that today. But I do think that we should be very cognizant of the public's time when it comes to scheduling on the agenda. I know that folks are, they're having a hard enough time making meetings as it is. I'm the same way. I have stuff stacked and double stacked and have to skip things. So if they, if they show up to this and they go, oh, I'm not going to have any participation for another hour and a half, and then I can't do any participation, I have to be somewhere else. We really need to be aware of that publicly. So, and I apologize for the ethics training. Sorry, folks, but thanks. And a thumbs up to the comment.
Thank you. Anything further on other business? Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with that comment. It seems like the last few meetings, we've spent a fair amount of time talking about adjusting the agenda when that time could probably have better been used to just focus on getting the agenda items taken care of. So whatever we can do to kind of solidify the agenda would be good. My other comment is just something general in nature. I joined the council, 6 months ago or something like that, right in the heat of the battle on the energy code adoption. It's a little bit interesting to me that we are just now talking about our goals of how we are going to produce this document. The whole conversation we had about the insert pages and the full code. When I came on, I really have felt like having a good understanding of when are people on and off I was hoping that there could be some changes made that you don't have a council member coming on midstream as much. So it's a little bit planned out. So I think that there are some, I don't have any specifics right now, but there are some governance type things that I would see that could smooth things out for the council a little bit. Schedule, make sure that we are clear on what we are wanting to produce ahead of time, not making a decision at the end. So as we get into the next code cycle, which I know is a few months away yet, but if we could maybe do a little bit more planning of exactly how the whole process will work, it seems like it would be helpful. So maybe commentary, but that's what I had to offer.
Thank you, Roger. Anything else on other business from council members? Go ahead, Micah.
Sorry, just to kind of follow up with Roger's point there and ask a question of Roger. What I guess maybe we should ask the entire council to look at what expectations we should have in providing information to the public as far as what we adopt and implement. I do believe this discussion was started 1.5 years ago or so during the transition from Richard to Stoyan. And unfortunately, I think there was some time that it had to have some evaluation from Stoyan and loss of staff. And so I think the determination was very recent in that we weren't going to be, or staff was not going to be able to produce certain things for this cycle. So I agree with you. I think maybe that comes down to that discussion on maybe getting some legislation in that sets required expectations for the Sbcc and what it should produce in a timely manner. So maybe that's a way we can all get on board is have something specific in writing. Maybe that's bylaws, maybe that's RCW or something else, but I completely and wholeheartedly agree with you. But I do know that I think we kind of started this situation, unfortunately, to a transition from one director to another. So, and I know Stoyan's trying to plan stuff, and I appreciate that work he's doing, even if it doesn't meet the needs of all the
Yeah. If I can respond, Mike, first off, it's not a criticism at all. It's just being a new council member, it's kind of, this is my impression, as we jump in here. And I certainly, I think Stoyan, first off, I wasn't even aware of how long ago Stoyan came in necessarily. So that transition piece is new to me. I think I, was aware of that, but anyway, I just, and I guess I understand from Stoyan's perspective, maybe this is in the staff report, but trying to think, a solution for us in the next 9 months to 12 months is to hire more staff. I know how difficult that is. That's not an easy button to push. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Roger. Chell, go ahead.
I think the bylaws is a good way to establish procedures that will transition from one, director to another and one council member to another over time. So I guess I can't suggest if we want to codify anything, we attempt to codify it in bylaws because they're the purview of the council largely and can be changed if situations change within the council. So.
Thank you, Chell. Representative Ramel, go ahead.
Thanks. So just kind of following up on that and following up on Senator Lovick's comments from earlier in the morning. He and I were actually texting back and forth and asking each other whether there was a need for, legislative action to be able to support avoiding this challenge into the future. And so if there is the answer, I think we're both pretty interested in hearing a recommendation. I don't know if it's bylaws or RCWs. That's a question I'm pretty open to, but I think if there's a resource question, making sure the Code Council has the resources to be able to, make sure that the products that we're producing are accessible and understandable to the people who are supposed to be using them should be part of the mission and the job and be part of what we're resourcing adequately.
Thank you, Representative Ramel. Micah, go ahead.
I'm going to parrot that a little bit. I think we may need both RCW and bylaw changes. I don't think funding is tied to the bylaws, and that's why I recommended a legislative action to get into RCW. That way, if there is more staffing or something else that needs funding, it's tied to that legislation. And I know Stoyan's having a hard time getting staff. I've helped him participate in several interviews, and folks just aren't taking the job. So the staffing issue is really tough, and I feel for him. So thanks.
Thank you, Micah. Go ahead, Stoyan.
I was gonna cover this in my staff report, but since we're talking about this, I don't like saying I'm new. I used it a few times as a joke, but it doesn't. I got the job. It's not an excuse if I'm new. What I found when I started, I saw things that I didn't like and I couldn't change because the process already started. Okay, so we're going back to this code development and stuff. Again, my intention was to develop codes effective 2024, and I have pages of ideas and unofficial proposals yet how we can modify the bylaws and the council policies and procedures. I don't believe we need changes in the RCW, but it's just a personal opinion. Asking for money all the time, it won't help. As a staff, we need to understand what the council expectations are and what you folks want to produce, and then we can start building up. As I said, we can start building up the foundation, changing the policies and procedures and the bylaws, and then we can start meeting our obligations. The stuff we have and I had it in my budget, but we have two positions that are not filled. We have one code specialist, which is difficult to find. And we have one program specialist, which was, the intent was this person will help Krista with the edge code. So it's not a conversation that will start today and will end today or tomorrow. We need to think about the entire process. So if I have to develop code, I will do it. I just need to know upfront if I'm doing that. Because again, currently the council is not set to develop a code without any blaming, without anything. This is what I inherited. This is what I'm working with. We want to develop code. I'll comply with it. We just need to set the rules. And this includes, Roger, sorry, I was trying to give you a good onboarding. I guess I failed on that, but it seems like in the last year and a half, we are always chasing something and there is never time for housekeeping. So I'll take this on me, but November, we have the last meetings, the last adoption meetings. So November 4th and November 18th. After November, again, staff needs time to file the codes. We have Dustin now, and he's showing knowledge and interest, and I'm happy with that. So I hope I will have a little bit more time to work with, I don't know, all council members or a group of council members that you folks will decide. And we need to start not only talking, but working on these new policies and procedures that will help us develop better codes in 2024. This was part of my speech that I was going to share during my staff time. My ears are always open. I don't like losing. When I turn around, I want to see a good job. It doesn't matter if I did it or somebody else. But my ears are open. I may argue with you, but I think the arguments are good because we want to develop a better product. So if I'm making mistakes, let me know. If you have issues with stuff, let me know. We'll handle that. The first thing we started with was updating and maintaining the website. So currently, I think all documents that are available, that are part of the rulemaking, all documents are posted on the website. CR 103s are there, cost benefit analysis. We believe that this is a good start for the local jurisdictions to start modifying their codes and adding their local amendments. But just the time frame is killing us. And I will mention again this group 1 and group 2 that I want to discuss. Can we get rid of it? And I have some ideas that I want to discuss with the council members. So again, to summarize, I want to start discussing with you the policies and procedures, and then we can go to the funding. So if I can comply with your needs, I'll do it with the current, and I can do it with the current stuff, I'll do it. If I can't, I will give you a detailed response what I can.
Thank you, Stoyan. Anything further on other business? Okay. With that, we will move to the next agenda item, which moves right into Stoyan's staff report.
I will start with the budget, and I will share the budget on my screen. Okay. So right here, you can tell fiscal year 2022, what was planned for fiscal year 2022, where we are right now, and what we have planned in 2023. you can tell there is a big difference between 2023 and 2022. Again, we have two unfilled positions, and we upgraded. We had code specialist 3. Currently, we went to code specialist 4. We're trying to modify one more position to, to get a better pay. This is in order to hire better code specialists. When you get to the bottom right, so this is what we currently have in the account. Okay, again, our account is built by building permit fees. So we have over $1 million, which is great, right? But this $1 million will be exhausted within 2 years if we keep the same salaries, if we keep the same positions. So when we say, we'll give you more money, I mentioned it before. It's important what you mean by more money. Are we getting more money from the general budget, or we will still stay within our building permit fees? So these are things that we need to put on the table. But again, I believe we need to start first with changing the rules a little bit, and then get to the budget. So to summarize the budget, we are okay for now. We have something in the account, but I wish we will hire the positions that we need. So if we start getting in trouble, I will be the first one who will raise the concern. Here is where we are with the building permits. So I think the 2023 is this one right here. I don't know if you see, where's my mouse? This line. Not too high, not too low. We are in the average, into the average. What my observations are, each time when we have this budget short discussion, and when I say we want to do auditing for the building departments to assure that they are submitting their building permit fees, each time we get this spike right here. But besides the jog, we need to do this auditing, and for the next year, I hope we will have enough staff, and we'll be able to spend a little bit more time to do this auditing. What my experience is, since I started, we have many building departments or many cities and counties asking me, hey, where I need to send my building permit fees, which tells me that they've never done it before. There may be others that are overpaying because there is a little detail in the definition that some cities and counties don't really understand which building permit they need to charge the additional fees. But we're trying to work with the again local jurisdictions to clarify this requirement. But it's been on my to-do list to do some auditing, put different form. I don't know yet how, but that will help to streamline the process. That's about the budget. The next one I want to, the next topic I want to talk about is the adoption process. So where we are in the middle of a comment period. Okay, the comment period will end at 5 o'clock on October 14th. We will be receiving written testimonies by that date at that time. After that, the comment period closes. We have the first hearing scheduled for September 29th, next Friday, Thursday, in Yakima. Thank you for organizing that. This will be for the energy code only. Okay, the public hearing, you're not required to attend. You're welcome to attend, but you're not required to attend. You can attend in person, you can attend via Zoom or a conference call. The same comment applies to the public. So if you want to show up in person, you're welcome. If you want to attend online, Zoom link will be provided. All information for the hearings is on our website. We have the sign-up sheet saved in different places if you get lost on the website. We have the rules for the hearing, again, saved in different places. And we have the time, we have the links, everything is there. Next Friday, September 30th, it will be all other codes except the energy code. By all other codes, I mean all codes in group 2. Okay, the group 1 is already gone, it's adopted. All codes in group 2. October 14 will be here in this room, and this will be a hearing for all codes in group 2. Energy, everything else. Your work session is scheduled for October. So we tabled many things for October 21st, the council meeting on October 21st, but the main agenda item in this council meeting will be, it's a work session. During the work session, you will debate, you will discuss, you may want to ask further questions, but it's not a meeting when new comments will be provided, and it's not a meeting when you need to make any decision. Work session, discussion regarding the building code adoptions. By that time, I will do my best to provide you some kind of a draft of a third-party cost-benefit analysis. It shouldn't be considered preliminary or final cost-benefit analysis. It's just another viewpoint for you folks and the public for you to decide if you want to adopt or not adopt something, and for the public to get familiar with, just see different viewpoints. This is related to the energy. Okay. I was told by 2 other entities that they will be developing something similar. So I hope we will be able to provide you with different viewpoints again for the energy code that will add to the rulemaking package, and you have you may want to evaluate it in addition to the preliminary cost benefit analysis that was prepared by staff. What else? So this is for the code adoption process, and I get questions very often from council members. So if you folks have questions about this, I think we have a little bit more time. Here is the right time. I can provide you with some clarifications or make promises if I need to. I know the new council members, and I was trying to work with them, but I don't know, they started in a really busy time, so I don't know if they are up to speed. But folks, during a council meeting or anytime you need help or you have questions, I'm available. So questions about the rulemaking? No, okay.
Answers on this screen. I don't know if it would show up there or not. Is there any hands raised?
No hands raised.
Okay. We already addressed the documents, emails, or attachments we are receiving during the comment period. So we will think about how we can not overload your mailboxes, but at the same time make the information available. We'll see what we can do. We have the council policies and procedures. Again, I have some ideas. I put something together, but I wanna continue follow up on this discussion. I don't know in April. I'm sorry, in November or early January, and get together with all council members or a group of council members that we can think about, and also Dirk, our Assistant Attorney General, and think about potential changes to the bylaws and the council policies and procedures. I'm not done. I'm not done yet. Council members and state emails. I know Pete hit a DES email, state email. I know Pete had a really hard time to set up this account. Our IT folks asked me if there will be other council members that would like a state email. I guess we need to pay for this, so I want to know upfront if there are folks that would like that, so I can follow up with IT and see if we can handle that. Oh, go ahead. So Pete.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that process did not work. I was never able to actually access a DES email account. I thought it was important from an ethics standpoint. And I think paying attention to our ethics and having ethics training like we were scheduled for today is incredibly important to maintain the validity of this council. And I wanted to get a DES account to see if it was A, possible, and B, if to make sure that all my communications were routed through that so I could easily give that to Derek, for example, if he needs that information from a legal standpoint. But I just would comment that process did not work, and I was not able to get that email to go. So there needs to be some more background effort to figure out what went wrong there and make it happen. But anyhow, I just wanted to report failure there. So.
Okay, so I'll follow up on that. I wasn't aware of that, but it unfortunately it's out of my hands. But I will follow up on that. We'll see.
Well, I just kind of pushed it until as much as I possibly could, and then finally just said, this is after 2 months, this is just not worthwhile. So, that's the way IT goes sometimes.
All I know is to turn on and turn off my computer.
Well, I do think that one of the biggest problems here is that I'm not directly connected to the DES system somehow. So that seems to be the technical barrier, that if I had a state computer or access to a state computer, I could have done so. But since I don't have access to a state computer, it didn't seem to really do what I wanted. So
I know in the past, before my time, the council members, they had state emails, and this practice was discontinued because of security issues. The concern was raised by DES public record. I don't know if he's a coordinator or he's a manager, whatever his title is, because it will help to collect the information if we have a public record request. And I will share my screen again, and I'll show you a section that we unfortunately don't pay attention to, but this is WAC 5104-050. So all written communications related to council business received by council members shall be forwarded to staff for inclusion in the public record. That's important one. And the idea, I guess, for the state emails was that we'll have everything handy, and our public record coordinator will be able to easily obtain the information versus, contacting each of you. And so that was the reason for the state emails. But even without the state emails, keep in mind this WAC 5104-050, that's important. And I think this is all I have for today.
I think I got a question for you.
Yes, Micah.
So, Stoyan, since you talked about the public comment process and some of the hearings, On the main page of the SBCC under featured links, there's a document that says guidelines for providing public testimony. And it's on State Building Code Council letterhead. Is this a new document? Because when you open it, it says public testimony rules of conduct. And it gives some guidelines and information, which I think is fine, but is this something new, and should this be voted on by council, since we're talking about rules of conduct for public comment? And then I do have a question on a section of that once we get to, and I can share my screen if you'd like, for Derek. And it's saying that you have to, if you're going to provide virtual testimony, you must sign up 30, they're required to sign up for public testimony 30 minutes prior to the start of the hearing. Is that any type of violation of the Public Meetings Act or Open Meetings Act, where you're requiring a sign up 30 minutes prior to the meeting actually starting? I just, curiosity questions on a couple items, and I know Derek, you can answer some, and maybe Stoyan can follow up with this whole rules of conduct.
Well, the rules of conduct, they're not new. They were there. We updated the rules of conduct a little bit to align with our online Zoom meetings, because they get information for in-person meetings. And then after now, we are open for in-person and online meetings. So we just moved back the information. So it's a rule of conduct that was there before. It's just being updated to align with, different time frame, online meetings versus in-person meetings. About the sign-up
rules. Sorry, I was going to say, are those rules something that the SBCC should vote on, since there's modifications to them? And are we in agreement with those rules?
I believe these rules, and it's a personal opinion, I don't know if the SBCC, the council members voted on that, but this is not something that sets policies and procedures. These are rules of conduct. It tells you how to sign in. It tells you how to show up. It tells you that you have like 3 minutes. It explains how what you can't do, argue or use improper language, those kind of things. So these are not wax or any bylaws or any formal procedures. If you wanna vote on it,
I was just gonna say, I violate them when I argue with you, Stoyan. So maybe we should discuss it further. But I would like to hear from Derek before we get to the council members, if possible.
Oh, sure. Is it okay, Stoyan, if I jump in here?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, I'm going to be honest. I don't believe I've ever been asked to take a close look at that. I would note that the term rule is probably a misnomer in this context. These clearly haven't been adopted pursuant to Administrative Procedure Act. I would take the word rule here to mean just kind of informal. Hey, these are our standards that we would use for our expectations that we'd use for participating. You raise an interesting question, Micah, regarding the requirement of signing in for prior to testifying in a hearing. This is an issue I know that other agencies have been challenged with over the last few years under Administrative Procedure Act. Generally speaking, the APA has been construed to not allow agencies to ask people to identify themselves formally if you're going to participate or provide contact information. Sometimes agencies say, hey, I want your name, which contact information, and the various, and sometimes people don't want to do that. They say, I want to testify. I don't want to give you contact information, and so I've advised in the past to avoid doing that. But there are technical reasons why, of course, if you're conducting a Zoom hearing, you need people to provide your information in a webinar context. And so I know that agencies have used that approach. They've been careful about it. I haven't specifically, I can't recall, Stoyan, if you and I have had any specific conversations about it in this context. Maybe we have, but prior to the hearings, we should certainly have a conversation to ensure that we're facilitating the functionality of this tool on the one hand, but on the other hand, not requiring somebody to do something that they're not comfortable or required to do under the APA.
Here is the sign-up sheet. It's almost the same we used the last time. Just currently the changes are we are identifying if it's in person or Zoom.
Yeah, and and there's nothing that precludes the agency from doing this. The challenge is, if somebody comes in a, bricks and mortar testimony and says prefer not to say, we wouldn't preclude them from testifying under those circumstances, right? The challenge with the technology is you can't, you need to get the information about the person in order to, approve them to come in and testify. And so, again, we just want to make sure we're doing it in a way that isn't putting people in a position where they're uncomfortable disclosing information or violating the requirements under the APA.
We haven't heard about concerns. I mean, if there is not any plan, if somebody doesn't want to provide contact information, we haven't had this case, but Dirk and I discussed before that we can't stop anybody from testifying if they want to stay anonymous.
I think I participated in rulemaking once where Donald Duck testified, so
Yes, yeah.
the way it is. Yeah.
Micah, do you have something that is in line with what Dirk is talking about?
Yeah, I guess part of that too is just the sign up. Even if they allow a sign up, it sounds in the rules here that they have to do it 30 minutes prior to the hearing start time. And that's kind of my concern is if they don't know this and they show up to the meeting, I definitely don't want us turning somebody away, which I don't think we have. But again, we're posting something that says rules on State Building Code Council letterhead. And I just want to make sure that we're not violating anything and we're not, overlooking folks that come to a meeting and then they can't participate because they go, oh, I can't participate now based on the rules that are in writing here. So just, minimal concerns. But again, I want the council to be aware of this document. And since we are upcoming public comments shortly, thanks. I'll let the others talk. Sorry.
To that, just real quick, Dirk, can we change, would it be in the best interest of council to change the title of that to standard of conduct or recommended standard of conduct?
If starting from scratch, I think I would advise to not use the word rules because, it can create some confusion. If this has been the case for a lot of cycles now and a lot of years, I'm not sure if I'm super concerned about it.
Okay.
But given an opportunity to make a change, I think, there's a whole host of different nouns that could be used.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Sen, go ahead.
Well, we don't have the 30 minutes in the rules. We have it in the sign-up sheet.
That's, I think,
Well, you must sign up a minimum of 30 minutes prior to the hearing to provide oral public testimony. And the sign up at 30 minutes is because you need the list.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You need the list. So if they sign up later than that, we won't be able to update it. That's the reason not to,
But it's not intended to necessarily exclude anyone. It's more
not
of a heads up
intended to,
from
it's a heads up. Try to do it within 30 minutes before, because otherwise we will be already at the meeting. So we don't know.
Understood.
That's the main reason. It's not intended to,
Okay. All right. Senator Wilson.
Well, I had only one thing, but now I have two. So one thing is just, I saw in that form that it said the testimony was limited to 3 minutes per code. What code is that?
Well, for each hearing, we are listing the codes that will be discussed at that particular time. So for the first meeting on 29, it will be the energy code residential. For the second meeting on 30th, we have the building code, structural provisions, we have existing building code, we have residential code, we have mechanical code, plumbing code, fuel and gas code. So 3 minutes per code, because some folks, they want to provide testimony for different codes, so we don't want to limit them within the 3 minutes only.
Okay, I'm reading that differently. I'm looking at it as it's 3 minutes per some code that you can't talk any more than 3 minutes. But you're talking about different codes as in energy, building, etc.
Yes.
Okay, there's some confusion there. Okay, the why I had my hand up was I was just going to ask, did I miss when the ethics training was going to be rescheduled?
Derek, unless you have more information on that, the email that I received notifying of cancellation does not have the rescheduling time on it.
I didn't. And just a little background, I was told by Kate Reynolds, executive director of the ethics board, that she and Jennifer wouldn't be able to participate. And I indicated to her that, we would have an expectation of being able to reschedule ASAP. She was apologetic and assured us that she and Jennifer would work hard to find some time that works. She also indicated that if we wanted to expedite it, it could be a members only training, so it wouldn't be done necessarily during the next open meeting, or there wouldn't necessarily have to be a special meeting for it. And that would probably make it easier to find some time to schedule under those circumstances, but we don't have a specific date yet. I do want to say to Tony and to Stoyan, if we could find some time maybe to connect, if we have time after this meeting, just to talk about potential timing, and so that I can help facilitate that with Kate and Jennifer. I think that would help all of us.
Thank you.
Corey, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a comment. One of the things that stuck out earlier in this process is we had in public testimony, I think it was a specific gentleman on a couple of occasions played a ukulele and made a complete mockery of what all of us are trying to do and all the hard work that everybody's doing. So I think I got a partial answer. Is there absolutely no rules that you can put in place to not make a mockery of the work we're doing? As far as playing a ukulele or a flute or a piano or whatever, is there no rule? Can you apply no rules to conduct?
I can work with Derek and take a look at Robert's rule and what we have in place in order to host an efficient and pointed meeting. And I don't have an answer for you right now on that, Corey, so I apologize. But I can look into some things in Robert's rule and see what the intent there is and what we can.
Tony, do you mind if I jump in for a second?
No, please do.
Yeah, so Corey has a good question. I would note that the individual who was playing the ukulele, I recall, they might disagree that was making a mockery. I think we all would have our separate opinions about that. Governing to the rules on that, it depends. I can't recall whether that was during one of our council meetings or separately was during a hearing. I think it was during a council meeting and not during the actual rulemaking hearing. And Robert's rules would kick in on the rulemaking hearing, or sorry, on the council meeting. And I think the chair would have some authority to establish rules of decorum that would be a little different in the context of accepting testimony in an open hearing under our Administrative Procedure Act. So that's my lawyerly "it depends" answer, but I can assure you I can work with Tony and Stoyan and seeing what the limits of the council's authority is to put some guardrails on conduct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Wilson.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I think that in Robert's rules, it says that it has to be germane to the topic, right? So I think that might, yeah, so that might be, ukulele may not be germane to the topic.
That's a good point, Senator Wilson. Thank you. Micah, go ahead.
Tough points there, tough ones to argue. The ukulele and the guitar may not, but I know that it was the electric song, if I remember correctly, and it was very specific to the energy code and adoption. So the testimony was spot on. However, maybe the delivery was not what we'd like to see. I'm not for the rules. I know under constitutional law, I want to say based out of a Supreme Court decision from the 50s, that you can't do much of that limitation on how it's delivered. I understand that it has to be on the topic, but how it's delivered in, whether it's angry or profanity laced or things like that, that is constitutionally protected based on that. And I'm not a lawyer, Derek, so don't quote me on that that actual case and the date, but I'm pretty sure that was a U.S. Constitution from, I want to say, the late 50s that says, yeah, your open meetings, your open meeting.
Yeah, it's not, Mike, it's not ringing any specific bells, a specific case, but absolutely there are First Amendment implications we all need to be careful about if we're going to be identifying standards on how limiting people's ability to express themselves.
Thank you, Derek. Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, being married to an artistic type, the method of expression of your public opinion is very variable. Being a technical person, I am going to be very keenly aware of what I say and how I say it. But a whole heck of a lot of people are going to enjoy songs and ukuleles. And I think determining the relevance in that case can't really be based upon the method of presentation. It really has to be based upon the content. And as Micah points out, that was the electric song, as he noted. And so it can be quite relevant. So we can't just dismiss artistic expression as something we don't really kind of bond with, I guess, or appreciate as much as another person would. So.
Thank you for your insight, Pete. Appreciate that. Carolyn, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Stan, I had a question. You kind of walked us through upcoming events and the purpose of the council meeting on October 21st, which I see is an extra long one from 10 to 4 for the work session. I was curious, looking at the calendar, it looks like there's then a council meeting on November 4th and then another one on November 18th, the November 18th being more of the normal schedule. Just curious what thoughts were on the purpose of the November 4th meeting.
The purpose is that using the experience from the energy code commercial, we didn't get the job done for one meeting, so we had to reschedule and actually schedule continuation of the meeting or special meeting, whatever it is. So now we have 2 meetings already scheduled. If we can't get the job done on November 4th, we'll continue on November 18th. Or the other option is we will have one code, the energy code on November 4th. Is that right, Krista? And then, well, 4th is the first one is on 4th. If we can finish it, great, we'll continue with the rest of the codes on November 18th. We just wanted to separate the codes because we always get stuck with the energy code and we don't have time for the rest of the codes. That was the reason for scheduling 2 meetings in November. If we can get the job done in November, on November 4th, there won't be any need for November 18th. But we don't want to take the risk for November 18th and not being able to vote on the codes, whatever the vote is, because we need to adopt the codes by December 1st.
Thanks.
So 2 dates, they're already scheduled. We will not go through the headache, to think about special meetings or continuation of the meetings and those kind of things.
Thank you, Carolyn. Todd, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious if it's appropriate to get a pulse on how many people might be in the room for the work session. Having chaired, hybrid meetings when we're doing deliberation or other type of, it is difficult, right? So I'm just curious if everyone plans on being online or in Olympia.
Which date was that meeting? I'm looking at the calendar. I can't keep them straight. I apologize.
October 14th, October 21st. Sorry, I was lying. October 21st. Is that the right one? 21st, right? October 21st is the a council work session.
I plan to be there.
I will send you emails and I'll ask you how many of you, when we get closer, I'll ask you how many of you are planning to attend in person and how many online. You can tell for today, the audience is full with chairs. But we will be in this room. It can fit up to, I don't know, 80 people, about there.
So right now we don't know whether it's going to be live or.
Well, it will be the same hybrid meeting in person plus Zoom option.
Okay.
We just don't know how many people will show up.
Okay. Pete, go ahead.
I just wanted to say from a disability standpoint, participation in meetings via Zoom makes life incredibly much easier. I know that our city parks advisory board has moved to in-person meetings and dropped their Zoom meetings, and I'm protesting that greatly. So I want to keep you aware that the disability issue is important and that participation by people with disabilities via Zoom really is a great benefit. So thank you.
We want to keep the Zoom option available.
Thank you. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I'm looking forward to meeting all of you in person because I've never met any of you except on the screen. But it is so convenient that I do find it just, yeah, like Pete said, it's convenience for convenience sake that we can do this. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob.
Staying on the same topic, I didn't recognize the chair this morning.
So any other comments from council members on the staff report? Okay, with that, we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone. And we do have public hearings next week on the 29th and 30th, just as a heads up. Thanks for your time and the discussion today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony.